The room went quiet when Daniel's parents gave me a contract and said, "Sign this. Everything you own now belongs to the family." Daniel smiled and said, "It's just a formality, babe." I leaned back and smiled. "Then you'll love what's in my safe deposit box." Their smiles disappeared as my lawyer walked in. I met Daniel 6 years ago in Chicago. I was in my late 20s, focused on building my career in real estate. I flipped houses, made smart investments, and built a stable, comfortable life. Daniel seemed wealthy and confident. He wore designer clothes and had all the newest gadgets. His parents, William and Eleanor, acted like they were from old money. Their huge house was filled with antiques and family portraits. But something always felt off. They made comments like, "You're lucky to join our family," and, "You must be happy to have this kind of stability." It felt like they assumed I needed their help. Daniel had red flags too. He borrowed money and didn't pay it back. He once asked me to put my name on a house for tax reasons. I said no, but I let a lot of things slide. Then came the dinner at his parents' house. We'd been married for 2 years. Family dinners weren't unusual, but that night felt strange. His parents looked smug, and Daniel seemed excited. Halfway through the meal, William handed me a thick contract. "We're thinking about the future," Eleanor said. "This will help keep the family strong." I looked at the contract. They wanted me to sign over everything, my savings, investments, properties, into a family trust that they controlled. My stomach dropped. "It's just a formality, babe," Daniel repeated. I looked at him. He expected me to just agree. Instead, I smiled. "Then you'll love what's in my safe deposit box." Everyone froze. Daniel's smile faded. Eleanor looked nervous. William clenched his jaw. Then my lawyer walked in. Eleanor tried to dismiss her, but my lawyer ignored her, read the contract, and laughed. "This is clear financial manipulation." She explained that if I signed, they could take all my money and sell my properties, and I wouldn't be able to stop them. Eleanor tried to defend it, calling it a matter of trust, but my lawyer pointed out the fine print. They'd have full control, and I'd have none. Daniel stood up angrily. "Why are you doing this?" "You just tried to steal everything from me," I said calmly. Eleanor acted sweet and innocent, saying they were just trying to protect me. I didn't respond. William got impatient. "Let's be adults and move on." I couldn't help but laugh. "Like adults who try to steal from family?" Then Eleanor said something shocking. "I guess you're not interested in the inheritance, then?" My head snapped toward her. "Inheritance?" Daniel shot her a warning look, but it was too late. "Oh, didn't he tell you?" she said. "His grandfather's estate in Rhode Island, the real family wealth." My lawyer and I realized, this wasn't just about my money, it was about theirs too. Eleanor hinted that if I didn't play along, I wouldn't get a share of the inheritance. But I wasn't tempted. I saw what they were doing. They'd always taken what didn't belong to them, and Daniel had hidden this from me. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked him. "I was waiting for the right time," he said. "Right for you," I replied. We left without another word. In the car, my lawyer said, "They were after more than your money." I nodded. "What are the chances Daniel has debt?" She looked at me. "You think he's hiding something?" "I know he is." The next day, I hired a private investigator to dig into Daniel's past, his finances, credit, and business dealings. What he found was worse than I expected. Daniel was deep in debt, maxed out credit cards, loans, and even a business loan in my name without my permission. I was furious. That night, I confronted him. "How long have you been stealing from me?" He looked shocked. "What are you talking about?" I threw the papers onto the table. "You took out a loan in my name, hid your debt, lied to me, and you wanted me to sign everything over so you could fix your mess?" For the first time, Daniel didn't deny it. Instead, he did something worse. He laughed. A cold, bitter laugh. "You were always so careful," he said, shaking his head. "I thought you'd understand that we needed to think about the future, but you just don't get it, do you?" My chest tightened. This was his plan all along. He looked at me with a blank expression. "You have no idea what you've just started." I stepped back. "Are you threatening me, Daniel?" He didn't answer. He just grabbed his coat and walked out. I stood there, fists clenched. I wasn't scared, I was angry. If he thought this was over, he was wrong. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced, piecing together everything, every lie, every red flag. He hadn't just betrayed me, he had been planning this for a long time. The next morning, my phone buzzed. "Teresa, you need to come to my office, now." I could hear the urgency in her voice. Without asking questions, I grabbed my keys and drove over. When I walked in, she was waiting with a file on her desk. "You're not going to like this," she warned, pushing the file toward me. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. There was another woman, actually, two. Daniel wasn't just lying about money, he was lying about everything. "Meet Lisa and Hannah," Teresa said, pointing to two photos of women, both younger than me, both beautiful. Lisa was with him 2 years ago, he promised to marry her, took out a loan in her name, and drained her savings before disappearing. My stomach twisted. Hannah was last year, same story, but he never actually broke up with her. I stared at the pictures, trying to process what I was hearing. "So he was cheating?" I asked. Teresa nodded. "Yes, but here's the kicker." She flipped to another document. "He was engaged to Hannah." I blinked. "What?" "Yeah," Teresa said, "he proposed, gave her a ring, and planned a wedding. She thinks they're getting married in 6 weeks. My mouth went dry. "So he was married to me, engaged to someone else, and scamming both of us?" Teresa sighed. "Pretty much. And that's when it hit me, the Rhode Island estate. The inheritance his family kept talking about. Daniel needed a wife on paper to access it. That's why he kept me around. That's why he pushed for the trust. He wasn't just trying to steal my money, he was trying to replace me before I figured it out." I needed to talk to Hannah. The next day, Teresa set up a private meeting at a coffee shop. When Hannah walked in, she was practically glowing. She thought she had a fiancé. She had no idea she was Daniel's next target. I introduced myself. The moment I mentioned Daniel's name, her face changed. "How do you know him?" she asked, suddenly defensive. "Because he's my husband." "That's not possible." I placed my wedding ring on the table. Hannah's hand shook as she pulled out her ring and placed it beside mine, exactly the same. That's when she started crying. She told me everything. Daniel had promised her he was getting an inheritance but needed to be married to secure it. He promised a life of luxury in Europe once everything was settled. He had even convinced her to give him her savings. I clenched my fists. "Do you still have contact with him?" She nodded, wiping her tears. "He's supposed to take me to meet his family this weekend." I took a deep breath. "We're going to crash that little reunion." Hannah agreed to go along with the plan. We didn't tell Daniel we knew. Instead, she kept playing the part of the excited fiancé, texting him and keeping the engagement moving forward. Meanwhile, I worked behind the scenes. I hired a forensic accountant to dig into Daniel's finances. It turned out he had a hidden offshore account where he'd been moving money. The debts I found earlier were just the start. Then, I looked into his parents. The Rhode Island estate wasn't legally theirs yet. The probate process was messy, and they needed a stable heir to gain control. A stable, married heir. Daniel was supposed to be that person, but now, I had everything I needed to destroy his plan. The night of the family dinner came quickly. Daniel thought he was bringing his naive fiancée to meet his loving parents. Instead, he was about to get the shock of his life. Hannah and I arrived together. I walked in first. Daniel's parents were already seated at the grand dining table, sipping wine like royalty. Eleanor's face twisted in confusion when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. I smiled. I wouldn't miss family night for anything. Daniel walked in behind me, arm in arm with Hannah. He froze, his face drained of color, panic settling in as he searched for a way out. "Babe," he said, forcing a smile at Hannah, "why is she here?" Hannah crossed her arms. "You tell me." Silence. His mother stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. I won't have this drama at my table." I laughed. "Oh, trust me, you'll want to hear this." I turned to Teresa, who was standing quietly by the doorway. "Would you like to begin?" She stepped forward and pulled out her files. "Let's start with fraud," she said, flipping to the first page, "and then we'll get to bigamy." The room erupted. Eleanor gasped. William slammed his glass down. Hannah threw her engagement ring at Daniel. Daniel just sat there, staring at me with pure, unfiltered hatred. He knew I had destroyed him. And the best part? I wasn't finished yet. Silence filled the room, not the kind of silence where people are thinking, but the kind before a bomb goes off. Daniel gripped the table so hard his knuckles turned white. His mother's face twisted in horror and fury. her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the words. His father just stared ahead, the weight of everything sinking in. Fraud? Eleanor spat, regaining her voice. This is absurd. Where did you even get these ridiculous claims? Teresa, calm as ever, placed a thick folder on the table and slid it toward them. It's all in there, she said simply. Bank records, loan documents, forged signatures, and she reached for another paper. Proof that Daniel took out a business loan under his wife's name without her knowledge. That alone is a felony. Daniel flinched. Eleanor slammed her hand on the table. This is a family matter, she snapped. No, I said, my voice steady. This stopped being a family matter the moment you tried to steal from me. This is a legal matter now. Hannah spoke up. And what about the bigamy? She demanded, because last time I checked, I was engaged to a single man, not some lying, married scam artist. Daniel stood up. Hannah, he said, trying to stay calm, I can explain. She laughed bitterly. Oh, I'd love to hear this. He exhaled, running his hand through his hair. Okay, fine, he muttered. Yes, I was seeing you while still married, but it wasn't what you think. He gestured at me without looking. My marriage to her was over long ago. We were just dragging things out. I scoffed. Dragging things out? You tried to trick me into signing over my entire net worth. Sounds pretty active to me. Hannah's eyes narrowed. So everything you told me was a lie? The future? The wedding? Her voice broke. You told me I was the one. For a moment, something flickered in Daniel's eyes. Regret. Panic. It was hard to tell. I meant it, he said. I wanted us to have a future. Hannah. While you were still married? She snapped. No answer. Eleanor, still fuming, turned to me. You set this up, she accused. You're trying to ruin us. I laughed. Ruin you? You did that yourselves. I just put the truth on display. Daniel, quiet for too long, finally spoke. You think you've won, he said, his voice low. Everyone turned to look at him. He wasn't panicked anymore, he was angry. You act like you're the victim here, he growled, eyes locked on me. But let's be honest, this was always about power for you. You liked feeling superior. You liked keeping everything locked away. So I had to come to you for money. I raised an eyebrow. That's an interesting way to describe me protecting my finances from a compulsive liar. His nostrils flared. You never trusted me. You never gave me a reason to. I was your husband, he exploded, slamming his fist onto the table so hard the glasses rattled. You were supposed to stand by me, not turn on me like this. Hannah took a step back. Eleanor looked shaken. William, for the first time that night, spoke. Sit down, he ordered. His voice was quiet, but the authority in it was unmistakable. Daniel hesitated, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Then slowly, he sank back into his chair. Teresa cleared her throat. Since emotions are high, let's cut to the chase, she said, flipping through her notes. She held up a document. Hannah has already reported the fraud regarding the money taken from her. That's one charge against you, Daniel. His jaw clenched. Second, Teresa continued, we've already spoken to law enforcement about the fraudulent business loan, and considering the forged signature, that's another charge. Eleanor gasped. You went to the police? Of course, I said, staring directly at Daniel. Did you really think I was just going to let you walk away? His hands curled into fists. Third, Teresa went on, completely unfazed. The Rhode Island estate, that inheritance you were banking on, it seems probate. Court has some interesting information about how deep in debt this family really is. William's head snapped up. What are you talking about? Teresa smiled. Oh, you didn't know? Your assets are frozen. The air shifted. Eleanor's face drained of color. No, that's not possible. It is, Teresa said, her tone matter of fact. Turns out, the real reason you wanted my client to sign everything into a family trust was because you needed her money to pay off your debts. Eleanor shot up from her seat. This is a lie, but the way her voice cracked, she knew. William knew. Daniel knew. They were done. Eleanor was the first to break. She turned to Daniel, her voice sharp, her eyes burning with fury. You idiot, she hissed. You had one job. You were supposed to make this work, and now we're ruined. Daniel flinched. Don't put this all on me, he snapped. This was your plan just as much as mine. And you were supposed to execute it, she screeched. William rubbed his temples, looking 10 years older. Hannah, shaking, turned to me. I want him arrested. Don't worry, I said, it's already in motion. Daniel's head snapped toward me. You wouldn't. I met his stare, unwavering. Watch me. And that's when the sirens wailed outside. Daniel was arrested that night, fraud, identity theft, bigamy. There was more than enough to bring him down. As for his parents, their estate went into foreclosure within months. Hannah and I? We went out for drinks the next day and toasted to the fact that we had burned them to the ground. Some people say revenge isn't worth it. I disagree. Sometimes, revenge is exactly what's needed.
The moment my brother Gabriel dumped an entire cooler of ice water over my head during our father-daughter dance, I knew my wedding day was ruined. My name is Emery, and this is the story of how my little brother's harmless prank changed both our lives forever. It's just a joke, sis. Lighten up. Gabriel's words rang through the reception hall as mascara streamed down my face, my perfectly styled hair now a dripping mess. My white dress clung to my body, transparent in places it shouldn't be, while my father stood there shocked, his rented tux soaked through. What the hell is wrong with you? Marcus, my new husband, rushed to my side with napkins, his face red with anger. Have you completely lost your mind? Gabriel just laughed, high-fiving his equally immature friends. Come on, it's a wedding tradition. The bride needs something cold, right? My mother Esther hurried over, absolutely mortified. Gabriel Ryan, what have you done? This is your sister's wedding. I stood there shivering, watching my carefully planned reception dissolve into chaos. The string quartet stopped playing. Guests whispered and pointed. My photographer kept snapping photos, probably thinking she'd struck disaster documentary gold. I need to change, I managed to say through chattering teeth. My maid of honor rushed me to the bridal suite, but I knew the damage was done. The moment was gone. The father-daughter dance I'd dreamed of since I was little, the one Dad had been practicing for weeks despite his bad knee, was ruined. When I emerged in my backup dress, thank God I'd listened to my wedding planner about having one, Gabriel was still there, now working on his fourth beer. Hey, you look great, he called out, raising his glass. See? No harm done. I walked straight up to him, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. You've pulled a lot of stunts over the years, Gabriel, but this is different. He rolled his eyes. Oh, please, you're being dramatic. It was funny. Even Dad laughed. Dad didn't laugh. He was embarrassed. Everyone was embarrassed. But you wouldn't notice because you never notice how your actions affect others. Whatever, he scoffed, turning back to the bar. You've always been too serious. Life's a joke, sis. Learn to laugh. I grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at me. You think this is funny? You think ruining one of the most important moments of my life is a joke? Let go, he yanked his arm away, spilling his beer. Jesus, when did you become such a buzzkill? Marley, his girlfriend, approached cautiously. Gabe, maybe we should go. I think you've had enough. I'm fine, he snapped at her. Stop mothering me. You're as bad as Emery. I watched Marley's face fall, saw the familiar pain in her eyes. How many times had she tried to rein in his destructive behavior? How many times had we all tried? Marcus appeared beside me, his hand steady on my lower back. I think it's time for you to leave, Gabriel. You've done enough damage for one day. Fine. Gabriel stumbled slightly as he stood. I don't need this shit. Come on, Marley. As they left, I heard them arguing in the parking lot, their voices carrying through the open doors. Another relationship Gabriel seemed determined to destroy. I'm so sorry, honey. My mother hugged me, her voice breaking. I don't know what's gotten into him lately. But I knew. This wasn't new. This was Gabriel, doing what he'd always done, making everything about him, consequences be damned. Only this time he'd gone too far. Later that night, as Marcus and I slow danced to make up for the ruined father-daughter dance, I made a decision. Gabriel needed to learn that actions have consequences. Real ones. Not the kind that could be laughed off or dismissed with a wave of his hand. You're thinking about Gabriel, Marcus said softly, reading my expression. He needs to understand what he did today. Really understand. Marcus pulled back slightly, studying my face. What are you planning? Nothing yet, I replied, but my mind was already working. But when the opportunity comes, I'll be ready. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making someone face themselves in the mirror. Just don't let it consume you, Marcus warned, pulling me close again. He's still your brother. Yes, I whispered, watching the remaining guests enjoy themselves, trying to salvage what was left of our reception. He is my brother, and that's exactly why this matters so much. Little did I know then that my chance for revenge would come sooner than expected, and it would change everything, not just for Gabriel, but for all of us. 3 weeks after the wedding disaster, at exactly 2:17 a.m., our doorbell started ringing non-stop. Marcus and I were just settling into our new home, still surrounded by unpacked boxes and wedding gifts. "Who the hell?" Marcus mumbled, reaching for his phone. The doorbell kept buzzing, now accompanied by heavy pounding. I checked our security camera feed and felt my stomach drop. It's Gabriel, and oh God, he's drunk. Through the camera, I watched my brother sway on our front porch, repeatedly hitting the doorbell with one hand while clutching a half-empty bottle in the other. "Don't answer it," Marcus said, but I was already heading downstairs. When I opened the door, Gabriel practically fell inside. "Hey, sis," he slurred, stumbling past me. "Nice house. Wedding present from Mum and Dad, right? Must be nice being the favourite. Gabriel, it's the middle of the night. What are you doing here?" He wandered into our living room, leaving muddy footprints on our new carpet. "Marley kicked me out. Can you believe that? Said I'm destructive and need help. Whatever that means. You drove here drunk." I noticed his keys dangling from his finger. "Nah, took a cab." "Man, not stupid." He collapsed onto our couch, spilling some of his drink. "Just grab my car from the bar first, it's out front." Marcus appeared, now fully dressed. "I'll move his car into the driveway before it gets towed." Gabriel tossed the keys, missing Marcus completely. They clattered against a wedding photo on the wall, the one salvageable picture from after his prank. "Sorry about your fancy party, by the way," Gabriel mumbled, noticing the photo. "But hey, at least people will remember it, right?" I stood there, watching my brother's glazed eyes struggle to focus, and suddenly saw my opportunity. "You can stay tonight," I said, ignoring Marcus's surprised look. "Really?" Gabriel perked up. "Thought you were mad at me." "Oh, I am. But you're still my brother, and you're clearly in no state to go anywhere." Marcus pulled me aside. "Are you sure about this? He's not exactly stable right now." I squeezed his hand. "Trust me, he needs to see some things clearly, and maybe this is the perfect chance." When we returned to the living room, Gabriel was trying to drink from his now empty bottle. "Where's Marley?" he asked, nobody in particular. "She usually takes care of me when I'm like this." "Maybe that's the problem," I said, taking the bottle away. "Maybe it's time you took care of yourself." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're sleeping on the couch tonight. And tomorrow we're going to have a real conversation about everything, including the wedding." Gabriel groaned. "Not this again. It was weeks ago. Let it go." "Oh, I'll let it go," I said, tossing him a blanket, "right after you understand exactly what you did. Sleep well, brother dear." As I turned to leave, he called out, "You know what your problem is, Emery? You think everything has to be perfect. Life isn't perfect. It's all one big joke." I paused at the stairs. "No, Gabriel, life isn't a joke. But tomorrow I'm going to show you what one really looks like." Marcus followed me upstairs. "What are you planning?" "Remember how Gabriel always said I was too serious? How I needed to learn to take a joke?" I started gathering supplies from our bathroom. "Well, I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. Starting tomorrow, everything's going to be one big joke. Emery, don't worry," I said, filling a bucket with ice water. "I'm not going to hurt him. I'm just going to help him see himself clearly. Very, very clearly." From downstairs came the sound of Gabriel's loud snoring, punctuated by occasional mumbles about Marley. "He's hit rock bottom," Marcus observed. "Maybe this isn't the best time to—" "It's exactly the right time," I interrupted. "Rock bottom means he has nowhere else to go but up. And I'm going to make sure he does exactly that, whether he wants to or not. I set the bucket by our bed ready for tomorrow's wake-up call. He wants jokes? Fine. But this time, I'm going to make sure he understands the punchline. As I lay in bed listening to my brother's drunken snores echo through our new home, I felt a strange mix of anger and hope. Gabriel had always been the family's chaos factor, the one who turned everything into a game. Now it was my turn to play, and I intended to win. "Just promise me one thing," Marcus said as he turned out the light. "Promise this won't turn into something you'll regret." "I promise," I whispered, already planning tomorrow's lessons in karma. "This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about finally making my little brother grow up." At exactly 6 a.m., I dumped the bucket of ice water over Gabriel's head. His screams probably woke the entire neighborhood. "What the hell?" He shot up from the couch, dripping and shivering. "Are you insane?" "Oh, come on," I said, mimicking his wedding day tone perfectly. "It's just a joke. Learn to laugh, brother." Gabriel wiped his face, hungover and miserable. "Very funny. Where's the bathroom? I think I'm going to be sick." "Down the hall. But hurry up. We're having breakfast in 15 minutes. "We're what? No, I need to go home and..." "And what? Face Marley? Sleep it off? Run away from another mess you've made?" I started pulling open curtains, letting in the harsh morning light. "Not this time. You wanted to crash here, so now you're going to experience the full hospitality of Casa Emery." Marcus came downstairs, already dressed for work. "Morning, sunshine," he called to Gabriel, who was stumbling toward the bathroom. "Sleep well?" The sounds of retching answered his question. "You don't have to go to work today," I told Marcus quietly. "I can handle this." "Are you kidding? And miss the show?" He kissed my cheek. "Just go easy on him, okay? He looks rough." 20 minutes later, Gabriel sat at our kitchen table, still damp, nursing a cup of black coffee while I deliberately made the loudest breakfast possible. "Who wants eggs?" I practically shouted, banging pots and pans. "I'm thinking scrambled, with extra onions and garlic." Gabriel groaned, holding his head. "Please stop." "Stop? But I'm just getting started. Hey, remember that time you played your drum set at 3 a.m. because you thought Mum and Dad needed more music in their lives?" His phone buzzed, Marley's face appearing on the screen. Gabriel reached for it, but I was faster. "Hello, Marley, you're on speaker," I announced cheerfully. "Gabe?" Marley's voice was tired, worried. "Where are you?" "I've been calling all night." "He's safe," I answered. "Having breakfast at my place? Want to join us?" "Don't," Gabriel warned, but Marley was already responding. "Actually, yes. I think we all need to talk. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Gabriel slumped in his chair. "Why are you doing this to me?" "Doing what? Being helpful? Involving myself in your personal life? Making everything into one big joke?" I set a plate of eggs in front of him, the smell making him pale. "Isn't that what family does? This is about the wedding, isn't it? Oh, now he gets it. Give the man a prize." I clapped loudly, making him wince. "But no, Gabriel, this isn't just about the wedding. This is about every time you've turned someone else's moment into your comedy show. Every time you've hurt people and laughed it off." The doorbell rang, Marley early and determined. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "Perfect timing," I ushered her in. "We were just discussing Gabriel's greatest hits. Want to add any to the list?" "Emery, please," Gabriel started, but Marley cut him off. "How about last month's dinner with my parents?" she said, sitting down, "when you thought it would be hilarious to tell them about our sex life. Or my graduation," I added, "when you set off the fire alarm because the ceremony was too boring. The Christmas you sold Dad's vintage watch for concert tickets. Mom's 50th birthday party." Gabriel stood up suddenly, swaying slightly. "I get it, okay? I'm a screw-up. Is that what you want to hear?" "No," I said firmly. "What I want is for you to actually get it. To understand that your actions hurt people. Real people. People who love you." "Love me?" He laughed bitterly. "Right. That's why you're torturing me with this intervention." "Gabe," Marley's voice softened, "we're here because we care. Because we can't keep watching you destroy yourself and everyone around you." "I don't need this." He grabbed his keys from the counter. "I'm out." I blocked his path. Your car's staying here. You're still drunk from last night. Fine, I'll walk. To where, Gabriel? Your apartment that you got kicked out of. Your job that you're probably losing. Your girlfriend who's at her breaking point. He stopped, his back to us, shoulders tense. For a moment I thought he might cry. Instead he turned around with that familiar, mocking smile. At least I know how to have fun. When's the last time either of you just let loose? Stopped being so damn perfect all the time? This morning, I replied calmly. With the ice water. Pretty fun, right? His smile faltered. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again, this time with a call from his boss. Want to put that on speaker too? I asked. Or are you ready to have a real conversation about where your life is heading? Gabriel stared at his ringing phone, the weight of his choices finally seeming to sink in. And for the first time since I could remember, he didn't have a joke to hide behind. Gabriel let his phone ring out, then slumped back into his chair. I got fired, didn't I? Probably, I said, sitting across from him. Just like you probably lost your apartment, and you're probably about to lose Marley too. I'm still here, Marley said quietly. For now. The morning light streamed through our kitchen windows, highlighting the dark circles under Gabriel's eyes, the stubble on his chin, the stains on his rumpled shirt. He looked older suddenly, worn down. Remember Dad's funeral? He asked unexpectedly. Gabriel, don't, I warned, but he continued. Remember what Mom said to me, right after the service? I did remember. It was 5 years ago, but the memory was crystal clear. She was grieving. We all were. She said I was just like him, that I'd end up just like him. Gabriel's laugh was hollow. Guess she was right. Marley looked confused. Like your father. I thought he was a successful businessman. On paper, sure. Gabriel's voice was bitter. Great provider, perfect family man. Except for his little secret. Want to tell her, Emery? Or should I? I closed my eyes, feeling the old pain resurface. Dad had a gambling problem. He hid it well, but it nearly bankrupted us several times. Mum spent years covering for him, paying off debts. And he turned everything into a joke, Gabriel added. Sound familiar? Every crisis, every close call, it was all just one big game to him. Until it wasn't. The heart attack, I said softly. The heart attack, Gabriel echoed. Right after Mom found out about the second mortgage he'd taken out without telling her. But hey, at least he died laughing, right? Marley reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it's easier to be the family clown than the family failure, I answered for him. Isn't that right, Gabriel? He stood up abruptly, pacing our kitchen. You don't get it. You were always the strong one, the responsible one. I was just... there. Making people laugh because at least then they weren't disappointed in me. And the wedding? I pressed. What was that about? I don't know, he exploded. Maybe because everyone was talking about how perfect you are, how amazing your life is. Maybe because Dad would have loved it. One last big joke to lighten the mood. Or maybe, I said, standing to face him, you were scared. Scared that people might actually expect something real from you. Something meaningful. Like what? Like a genuine relationship, Marley interjected. Like a real career instead of jumping from job to job. Like being the person I know you can be when you're not hiding behind your pranks. Gabriel stopped pacing, staring out our kitchen window at the morning traffic. What if I don't know how to be that person? Then you learn, I said firmly, starting now. How? By having you dump ice water on me and force me to face my demons over breakfast? No. By staying here for a while. Both Gabriel and Marley turned to stare at me. What? Gabriel asked. You need a place to stay. We have a spare room, but there are conditions. Of course there are, he muttered. You get a job, a real one. You start therapy, and you face everything you've been running from. And if I don't? Then you're on your own. Completely. No more family bailouts. No more second chances. No more Marley waiting in the wings hoping you'll change. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Outside, a neighbour's kid rode past on his bike, laughing. Gabriel watched him, his expression unreadable. The spare room still has boxes in it, he said finally. We can move them. And Marcus is okay with this? He will be. Gabriel turned to Marley. What about us? She stood up, gathering her purse. That depends on you. I love you, Gabe, but I can't keep loving someone who doesn't love himself enough to change. As she headed for the door, she paused. Call me when you're ready. Really ready. After she left, Gabriel and I stood in silence, the weight of the morning's revelations hanging between us. I'm not him, Gabriel said suddenly. Dad, I don't want to be him. Then don't be, I replied. Be better. He picked up his coffee cup, now cold, and stared into it like it held answers. The spare room, does it at least have a bed? It will by tonight. And the ice water wake-up calls? Only when you deserve them. For the first time that morning, his smile was genuine, small but real. I really messed up your wedding, didn't I? Yes, you did, but maybe we can both get something better out of this mess. Like what? Like my brother back. The real one, not the joke version. 2 weeks into Gabriel's stay, I found him sitting on our front porch at dawn, talking to our neighbour Joseph. I paused at the door, coffee in hand, listening. So, you just gave it all up? Gabriel asked. The drinking, the parties? Joseph nodded, his weathered face serious. Had to. Lost my family, my career as a counsellor. Hit rock bottom hard. But sometimes that's what it takes to realise you're digging your own grave. How'd you climb out? One day at a time. Started counselling troubled kids again, but this time with real understanding. Nothing teaches empathy like falling apart yourself. I stepped outside, making my presence known. Morning, Joseph. Coffee? No thanks, heading to the centre soon. Got a full day of sessions. He stood, patting Gabriel's shoulder. Think about what I said about the meetings. They help. After Joseph left, Gabriel turned to me. Did you plan this? Plan what? Having an inspirational recovering alcoholic next door? Someone who just happens to be a counsellor? I sat beside him smiling. Contrary to what you might think, I don't actually control the universe. Joseph moved in last year, but he's right about the meetings. I'm not an alcoholic, Gabriel protested. No, you're just someone who ruins important events while drunk, loses jobs because of hangovers, and got kicked out of his apartment for throwing beer-soaked parties. Point taken, he sighed, watching the sunrise. I had that job interview yesterday. And I got it. Assistant manager at the sports store. Not exactly a career, but it's a start, I finished. Did you tell Marley? Left her a voicemail, she hasn't called back. Give her time. She's seen a lot of false starts. Gabriel pulled out his phone, showing me a text. Mum wants to visit. My stomach tightened. Are you ready for that? No. But Joseph said something interesting. He said, avoiding hard conversations is like leaving an infected wound untreated. It only gets worse. Smart man. Yeah. Gabriel stood up, stretching. I'm going to one of those meetings today, the ones Joseph mentioned. Want to come with me? I nearly dropped my coffee. You're serious? Don't make a big deal out of it. I need to try something different. Being the family clown isn't working anymore. Later that evening, after the meeting, we sat in my kitchen. Gabriel was unusually quiet, pushing his food around his plate. You okay? I asked. They all had stories. The people at the meeting, about hitting bottom, losing everything. And the whole time I kept thinking, what? That could have been Dad, if he'd gotten help, faced his demons instead of joking them away. Maybe he'd still be here. Marcus, who'd been silently supportive through all of this, spoke up. You can't change the past, Gabriel, but you're changing your future. That matters. I saw Marley today, Gabriel said suddenly. After the meeting, she was at the coffee shop across the street. And she said she's proud of me for trying, but she needs to see real change before... He trailed off, then laughed softly. You know what's funny? For once, I don't feel like making a joke about it. That's progress, I said. Is it? Because it hurts more this way. Everything hurts more when you're not laughing it off. That's how you know it's real, Marcus added. Real change isn't comfortable. Gabriel's phone buzzed. A text from Mom confirming her visit for the weekend. His hand shook slightly as he read it. She doesn't know I'm staying here, he realized. Or about the meetings. Or Marley. Maybe it's time she did, I suggested. Maybe it's time we all stopped pretending. Like how we pretended with Dad. Exactly like that. Gabriel stood up, walking to our family photo wall. He stopped at the wedding picture, the one showing the aftermath of his prank. I really thought I was being funny, he said quietly. I actually believed I was adding something positive to your day. How messed up is that? Pretty messed up, I agreed, joining him. But you know what's interesting? If you hadn't done that, hadn't pushed me so far, we might not be here now. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes. Is that your way of saying I should thank you for the ice water wake-up call? No, that was just fun. For the first time in weeks, we both laughed. Not the forced laughter of deflection or the bitter laughter of pain, but genuine, healing laughter. I'm scared about Mum's visit, Gabriel admitted. I know, but this time, you're not facing it alone. He nodded, then straightened his shoulders. I should call Marley. Tell her about the meeting. No jokes, no excuses. Just truth. Good idea. As he headed upstairs to make the call, I realized my plan for revenge had transformed into something else entirely. Something more like redemption. Mom arrived on Saturday morning with her signature apple pie and an armful of tension. The moment she saw Gabriel opening our front door, she froze. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice tight. I live here for now? Gabriel took the pie from her. Need help with your bags? She stepped inside, looking around as if searching for damage. Emery didn't tell me you were staying here. That's because I asked her not to, he said. We need to talk, Mom. I emerged from the kitchen, wiping my hands on a towel. Hi, Mom. Coffee's ready. The three of us sat at the dining room table, the untouched pie between us like a barrier. Marcus had conveniently found errands to run, giving us privacy. How long has this been going on? Mom asked, stirring her coffee endlessly. About 3 weeks, I answered. Since the night Marley? Since I hit bottom, Gabriel interrupted. That's what they call it in the meetings. Mom's spoon clattered against her cup. Meetings? What meetings? AA. Well, technically NA, Narcotics Anonymous. They're more about all kinds of addictions, including gambling. The word hung in the air like smoke. Mom's hands began to shake. Don't, she warned. Don't you dare bring that up. Why not? Gabriel's voice was steady. We never talked about it when Dad was alive. We never talked about it after he died. We just kept pretending everything was fine. Because it was fine, Mom stood up abruptly. Your father provided for us. He loved us. He was sick, Mom, I said gently, and now Gabriel's getting help so he doesn't follow the same path. This is ridiculous. Gabriel doesn't have a gambling problem. No, Gabriel agreed. I have a different problem. I turn everything into a joke because I'm terrified of being serious, of facing reality. Just like Dad did. Mom's face crumpled. You're nothing like him. I'm exactly like him, or I was becoming him. The deflection, the running away, the ruining important moments because I couldn't handle genuine emotion. Remember Emery's wedding? That was just a prank. It wasn't just a prank. Gabriel's voice rose. It was me, sabotaging something beautiful because I couldn't stand feeling inadequate. Because every time I see Emery succeeding, being happy, I remember what you said at Dad's funeral. Mom sank back into her chair. What I said? That I was just like him, that I'd end up just like him. I was grieving, Mom whispered. I was angry and hurt and right, Gabriel finished. But I don't want to be right anymore. I'm getting help. I'm facing things, and I need you to face them too. Tears started rolling down Mom's cheeks. Your father tried so hard to change. He just couldn't. Because he tried alone, I said. Because we all kept his secrets, laughed at his jokes, pretended everything was okay. And look at us now, Gabriel added. Still pretending, still avoiding, still hurting. Mom reached across the table, taking Gabriel's hand. I'm sorry about what I said at the funeral, about not seeing what was happening to you. I'm sorry too, he squeezed her hand, for becoming everyone's worst fear instead of proving them wrong. Tell her about your job, I prompted. As Gabriel shared his progress, the job, the meetings, the conversations with Joseph, Mum's expression shifted from pain to something like hope. And Marley? She asked. We're talking. Really talking. Not just me making jokes and her pretending to laugh. She came to dinner last night. Here. Yeah. She's been helping me learn how to be real, even when it hurts. Mum turned to me. This was your plan all along, wasn't it? Taking him in, forcing him to face everything. Actually, my plan was revenge, I admitted. But sometimes life has better ideas. I'm proud of you, Mom said to Gabriel. Your father, he would be proud too. Not of who you are becoming, but of who you're choosing to be now. Gabriel stood up, walking to the window. Joseph says change is like the sunrise. It happens gradually, then all at once, and you have to keep choosing it every day. Smart man, this Joseph, Mom observed. He is, I agreed. He's showing Gabriel there's a different way to be strong, a different way to be a man than what we grew up seeing. Mom finally cut into her pie, serving us each a piece. Well then, I suppose we have a lot of catching up to do. Real catching up, no more pretending. As we ate, the conversation flowed more freely than it had in years. There were tears, yes, but also genuine laughter, the kind that heals instead of hides. Through it all, I watched my brother's face, seeing glimpses of the person he was becoming. The person who, maybe, he'd been all along, beneath all those layers of jokes and deflection. 2 months after Mom's visit, I stood in the back of a community centre meeting room, watching Gabriel receive his 60-day sobriety chip. Marley sat beside me, clutching my hand. I never thought I'd see this, she whispered. He's actually doing it. Gabriel stepped up to the podium, the small bronze chip catching the fluorescent light. Hi, I'm Gabriel, and I'm an addict. Hi, Gabriel, the room responded. Not to drugs or alcohol, specifically, he continued, though those were definitely symptoms. I was addicted to running away, to turning everything into a joke because reality was too scary to face. Joseph, sitting in the front row, nodded encouragingly. 2 months ago, I ruined my sister's wedding. Dumped ice water on her during the father-daughter dance because I couldn't handle seeing someone else's perfect moment. I thought I was being funny. I wasn't. I was being a coward. He paused, taking a deep breath. My dad died 5 years ago. He was also a coward, hiding behind jokes and schemes until it killed him. I thought following in his footsteps was my destiny. But my sister, she showed me another way. Actually, she forced me to see another way. Laughter rippled through the room. She dumped ice water on me too. Karmic justice, right? But then she did something harder. She made me stay, made me look in the mirror, made me face every person I'd hurt with my jokes. Marley's grip on my hand tightened. Today, I have a steady job. I'm rebuilding relationships I nearly destroyed. I'm learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of drowning them in alcohol or deflecting them with humor. And yeah, sometimes I still want to run. Sometimes I still want to turn everything into a joke. But now I know there's a difference between laughing with people and laughing at their expense. He held up his chip. This isn't just for sobriety. It's for 60 days of choosing to be real. 60 days of facing myself in the mirror. 60 days of trying to become someone my father never had the chance to be. After the meeting, we gathered in the parking lot. Joseph hugged Gabriel, whispering something in his ear that made him smile. I have something for you, Gabriel said to me after Joseph left. He pulled out an envelope. Open it. Inside was a check for the exact amount my wedding had cost. Gabriel, no, I started, but he held up his hand. I've been saving from my new job. Every penny. You and Marcus deserve a do-over. A real wedding without any pranks or drama. We're already married, I reminded him. Then renew your vows. Have the father-daughter dance you deserved. Let me make it right. Marley stepped forward. Actually, I have an idea. Why not use that money for a different kind of celebration? What do you mean? Gabriel asked. She took his hand. I've been thinking. Maybe it's time we had our own wedding. A small one, with just family. Where you can show everyone who you've become. Gabriel's eyes widened. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking if you're ready. Really ready. No jokes, no running away, no turning it into something it's not. Gabriel looked at me, then back at Marley. Can I think about it? Not because I don't want to, but because I want to be sure I'm doing it for the right reasons. Marley smiled. That's exactly the answer I was hoping for. Later that night, Gabriel and I sat on my porch much like that morning weeks ago when everything started to change. I'm not taking the check, I said. Emery, no, listen. Keep saving it. Build a future with Marley. Or use it for education. Joseph mentioned the counselling programme at the community college. Gabriel was quiet for a moment. You think I could do that? Help people like Joseph does? I think you understand rock bottom in a way most people don't, and you're living proof that people can change. Because you forced me to. No, I corrected him. Because you chose to. Every day for 60 days you chose to be better. That's not revenge or karma. That's growth. He pulled out his sobriety chip, turning it over in his hands. You know what's weird? For the first time in my life, I'm actually proud of myself. Not for being the life of the party or the family clown, but for being real. Dad would be proud too. Yeah, he smiled softly. Maybe he's somewhere, watching, learning along with me. A car pulled into Joseph's driveway next door. He waved as he got out, carrying a stack of counselling books. I think I'm going to take those classes, Gabriel decided. Not for Marley or for you or even for Dad. For me. Good, I stood up. Because that's the only way change sticks, and when you do it for yourself. Hey, Emery, he called as I headed inside. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I deserved it. That's what family does, I replied. The real kind, not the pretend kind. He nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, addressed in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a letter that made me sit down hard on our front steps. Dear Emery, it began. You don't know me, but I'm one of your brother's students from his counselling internship. I wanted to thank you. Marcus found me there, still reading. Everything okay? I handed him the letter. Read it. He told us about your wedding, the letter continued, about how you turned his prank into a wake-up call, about how your revenge became his salvation. Yesterday he helped me find the courage to face my own family after years of running away. He said sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the best changes. Where's Gabriel now? Marcus asked. At the community centre with Joseph. They're running a workshop together. The sound of laughter drew our attention to the street. Gabriel and Joseph were walking up the sidewalk, deep in conversation. No, see, that's where you're wrong, Gabriel was saying. Sometimes humour can be therapeutic, if used right. It's about laughing with people, not at them. Joseph spotted us on the steps. Emery! Perfect timing. Your brother's just revolutionising my entire counselling approach. Someone left this for you. I held up the letter. Gabriel read it, his expression softening. Jake, he's been struggling with his parents since coming out. We talked yesterday about using honesty instead of anger. Looks like it worked, I said. Yeah, Gabriel folded the letter carefully. You know what's funny? Not haha funny, but life funny. I always thought being serious meant being miserable. Turns out being real just means being whole. Speaking of being real, Joseph interjected, shouldn't you be somewhere right now? Gabriel checked his watch and jumped. The ring! I have to pick up the ring! What ring? I asked, but he was already running to his car. The engagement ring, Joseph explained. He's asking Marley tonight, properly this time, with a real plan and everything. Does she know? No, but she's been helping him plan this workshop series on family reconciliation. He's going to propose after they present it together. I shook my head, smiling. From wedding crasher to wedding planner. Who would have thought? Actually, Joseph's eyes twinkled, he's planning something for you too. A surprise vow renewal ceremony. Small, intimate, just family. He's been working with your mum on it for weeks. Of course he has, I laughed, but this time I trust him with it. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Marley, a photo of her hand wearing a simple engagement ring, followed by, "He did it right this time. No jokes, just love." I showed Marcus the message. "Remember when I wanted revenge?" "You got it," he replied. "Just not the way you expected." "The best revenge is living well," Joseph quoted from our porch swing where he'd stayed to chat. Or in Gabriel's case, helping others live well. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Mom. "Your brother just called. He's crying happy tears. Real ones. Thank you for saving him." "I didn't save him," I typed back. "He saved himself. I just showed him it was possible." The next message was from Gabriel. "Meeting tomorrow at 7, bringing a new person. Dad would be proud of us both." I looked up at our house, remembering that drunk, broken man who'd shown up on our doorstep months ago. The brother who'd turned my wedding into a disaster. The son who'd been following our father's self-destructive path. "You know what the real revenge was?" I said to Marcus and Joseph, "breaking the cycle, turning pain into purpose." "That's not revenge," Joseph smiled. "That's redemption." My phone lit up one last time. A message from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Jake. Your brother said I should reach out. Said sometimes family needs to be chosen, not just born into. Would you and Marcus maybe want to come to dinner? My parents are finally ready to talk." As I typed my reply, I realized that my plan for revenge had created something far more powerful than I'd intended. It had created a chain of healing that was reaching far beyond our family. "Ready to head in?" Marcus asked. "Almost," I said, taking one more moment to sit with the peace of this evening. No ice water needed, no jokes necessary, no pain to hide from. Just truth, just growth, just love. And somewhere, I knew Dad was watching, finally learning how to face life without hiding behind laughter. Finally understanding that the best jokes aren't the ones that hurt, but the ones that heal. That's the thing about real revenge. Sometimes it looks exactly like forgiveness.
"You should really try the keto diet, Wendy. It worked wonders for my friend Sarah." Denise's sugary sweet voice carried across the dinner table like poison wrapped in honey. I gripped my fork tighter, the metal cold against my palm, and forced myself to keep eating my mother's lasagna. "My name is Wendy, and I'm a successful tech executive who just landed a major deal worth millions. But sitting here at my parents' weekly family dinner, none of that matters. I'm just the fat sister who can't get her life together. At least according to my brother's wife. I'm actually quite happy with my current lifestyle," I replied, keeping my voice steady. The words tasted bitter, rehearsed from countless similar conversations. "Oh, come on," Denise pressed, tossing her perfectly styled blonde hair. "You can't possibly be happy looking like that." She gestured vaguely at me with her fork, barely touching her own food. The table fell silent. My brother Josh suddenly became very interested in his water glass. My younger sister Paris shot me a sympathetic look, while Mom and Dad exchanged glances that screamed discomfort. "I just closed a $4.2 million deal today," I said, surprising myself with the words. "My team's expanding, and we're looking at opening a new office in Seattle." "That's wonderful, honey." Mom jumped in, clearly relieved for the change of subject. Denise's smile tightened. "Physical fitness is just as important as career success. Don't you agree, Josh?" My brother choked on his water. I think everyone has different priorities." "Speaking of priorities," Paris interjected, "did anyone watch the new episode of—" "You know?" Denise cut her off, leaning forward. "There's this amazing gym near your office, Wendy. I could get you a guest pass. They have excellent trainers who specialize in cases like yours." The lasagna turned to ash in my mouth. I'd lost count of how many times Denise had tried to help me this way, each suggestion feeling like a tiny needle under my skin. "I appreciate the offer," I said, standing up. "But I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow." "Already?" Mom looked concerned. "But we haven't had dessert." "Oh, that's probably for the best," Denise chirped. "Right, Wendy?" Something snapped inside me. 5 years of these digs, these little comments, these perfectly aimed arrows. I turned to face her directly. You know what, Denise? I run a department of 30 people. I've doubled our revenue in 2 years. My team would walk through fire for me. But somehow none of that matters because I don't fit your idea of what success looks like. The room froze. Denise's perfect smile faltered for a split second. I'm just trying to help, she said softly, playing the victim. Health is wealth, after all. Wendy, Josh started, but I cut him off. No, it's fine. I get it. I'm the fat sister who needs saving. The one who makes everyone uncomfortable because she doesn't fit the mold. Well, guess what? I'm done. Nobody thinks that, Paris protested. Really? I looked around the table. Then why does nobody ever say anything when she makes these comments? Why do you all just sit there? The silence that followed was deafening. I think we're all just a bit tired. Mom attempted to mediate. Maybe we should... I have to go, I said, grabbing my purse. Thanks for dinner, Mom. As I walked to my car, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Paris. Wait, she called out. You're right. We should have said something. I turned to face her, feeling the cool evening air on my heated cheeks. It's not your fault. It's mine for letting it go on this long. What are you going to do? I thought about Eva, my old colleague who'd been trying to get me to join her wellness program. Not for weight loss, but for strength. Mental and physical. I'd always brushed her off, too afraid to try. I'm going to change things, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. Not for Denise. For me. Paris hugged me tight. Show her what you're made of, sis. As I drove home, Denise's words echoed in my head, but for the first time, they didn't sting. Instead, they fueled something else. Determination. I pulled into my driveway, grabbed my phone, and pulled up Eva's number. The phone rang twice before she answered. Wendy? Everything okay? Remember that program you mentioned? The one about building strength from the inside out? Of course, Eva replied, sounding intrigued. I took a deep breath. I'm in. And I want to start tomorrow. Really? What changed your mind? I thought about Denise's smirk, about Josh's silence, about years of swallowed pride and forced smiles. Let's just say I'm ready to show everyone what real strength looks like. Eva's office wasn't what I expected. Instead of the typical gym setup with mirrors and equipment, it looked more like a cozy living room. Potted plants dotted the corners, and a comfortable couch invited me to sit. You look exactly the same, Eva said, pulling me into a warm hug. Her familiar jasmine perfume brought back memories of late nights at our old tech startup, sharing dreams and pizza. You mean still fat? I tried to joke, but it came out bitter. Eva's dark eyes narrowed. No, I mean still carrying yourself like you're apologizing for existing. Sit. We need to talk. I sank into the couch while Eva perched on her desk. So, what finally brought you here? My sister-in-law. I started, then found myself spilling everything about the family dinner. Eva listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Remember Marcus from our coding team? She asked when I finished. The guy who had panic attacks before every presentation? The same one. Now he's a keynote speaker at tech conferences. Eva leaned forward. Want to know what changed? He finally learned to code properly. He learned that strength isn't about being perfect. It's about being resilient. Eva stood up and walked to a whiteboard. You're looking at this all wrong, Wendy. You're seeing it as a weight issue when it's really a power issue. I shifted uncomfortably. What do you mean? This Denise person, she's not attacking your body. She's attacking your power, and you're letting her. I'm not letting her do anything, I protested. Really? Eva raised an eyebrow. Tell me about your last team meeting. What does that have to do with anything? Humor me. I thought back to yesterday's meeting. We were discussing the Seattle expansion. I suggested a new approach to... No, Eva interrupted. Tell me how you sat, how you spoke. Did you make eye contact? The question caught me off guard. I guess I mostly looked at my notes. Despite being the most qualified person in the room? Eva shook her head. That's what I mean. You're letting people diminish your power, not just Denise. My phone buzzed. A text from Josh. Denise feels terrible about dinner. Can we talk? I showed Eva the message. Don't respond, she said immediately. Not until you're stronger. I'm not weak, I snapped. No, you're not. But you're not using your strength either. Eva grabbed her keys. Come on, I want to show you something. We drove to a small community center where a group of women were gathering for what looked like a class. What is this? I asked as we walked in. My Tuesday group. Watch. The women were all shapes and sizes, some in business attire, others in workout clothes. Eva stepped to the front of the room. Ladies, today we have a guest. This is my friend Wendy, and she's about to learn what we already know. That power isn't about size, it's about presence. For the next hour, I watched as these women transformed. They practiced speaking, standing, even just entering a room. It wasn't about physical exercise. It was about owning space. Your homework, Eva announced at the end, is to take up space unapologetically, whether it's on the subway, in a meeting, or at your family dinner table. On the drive back, I was quiet, processing what I'd seen. You think I'm crazy? Eva said, grinning. No, I think I'm crazy for not calling you sooner. I paused. But I don't see how this helps me deal with Denise. Because you're still thinking about dealing with Denise. You need to focus on building yourself up first. Eva pulled into her office parking lot. 3 months. What? Give me 3 months. Come to my Tuesday groups. Work with me one-on-one. No diets, no extreme workouts, just building your power. After that, if you still want to deal with Denise, we'll talk strategy. Another text buzzed. Paris this time. Mom's planning a family sports day in 3 months. Denise's idea. You should come. I showed Eva the message, watching her face light up. Now that's what I call perfect timing, she said. Are you in? I thought about Denise's smirk at dinner, about Josh's avoiding eyes, about all the times I'd made myself small to make others comfortable. 3 months, I agreed. But I have conditions. Name them. No talk about weight loss, no scales, no before and after photos. Eva's smile widened. Deal. And I have one condition too. What's that? You have to promise to show up for yourself, not for Denise. I took a deep breath, thinking about the women in the community center, about how they owned their space without apology. I promise. Good. Eva handed me a notebook. Your first assignment is to write down every time you make yourself small this week. Every time you apologize for nothing, every time you let someone talk over you, every time you shrink to make others comfortable. As I drove home, my phone buzzed again with another text from Josh. This time I didn't even look at it. For the first time in years, I felt something new growing inside me. Not anger, not revenge, but something stronger. Hope. Stand like you own the room, Eva commanded, adjusting my posture in front of the mirror. Shoulders back, chin up, now walk. 2 weeks into our sessions, and I was learning things I'd never considered before. Like how the way you enter a room can change its entire dynamic. Better, Eva nodded as I strode across her office. But you're still apologizing with your eyes. I don't even know what that means. I laughed, but my phone's buzz interrupted us. Josh again. He'd been calling daily since the dinner incident. Eva raised an eyebrow. Still avoiding him? Not avoiding, just prioritizing myself for once. Good. Now about tomorrow's presentation. The door burst open, cutting her off. There stood Denise in perfect workout gear, her face a mask of fake concern. Wendy, I thought it was you. I teach yoga next door and saw your car. Her eyes swept over Eva's office, taking in the lack of traditional gym equipment. What is this place? My heart raced, but Eva's training kicked in. Shoulders back, chin up, own the space. Executive coaching, I said firmly. Eva's helping me enhance my leadership presence. Denise's perfect smile flickered. Oh, well, when I saw you at a wellness center, you thought I was finally taking your weight loss advice? I finished for her, maintaining eye contact. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Actually, Eva stepped in, her voice professional. Wendy's preparing for a major presentation tomorrow. We're working on commanding presence and authoritative speaking techniques, things that make a real impact in the corporate world. Denise's smile turned brittle. How interesting. Josh has been trying to reach you, you know. He's worried. I've been busy. Major project launch coming up. Too busy for family? Denise pressed. Too busy for drama, I corrected, surprising myself with my directness. Eva cleared her throat. Wendy, we should review your presentation points. Right, I nodded, turning back to Denise. It was nice seeing you. I'll tell Josh I saw you, Denise said, her tone suggesting a threat. He'll be relieved you're getting help. After she left, I collapsed onto Eva's couch. That was fantastic, Eva exclaimed. Did you see how you held your ground? 3 weeks ago, you would have made excuses or let her diminish you. She'll tell everyone I'm getting therapy or something. So what? Own it. Yes, I'm working with the executive coach to enhance my already successful career. Make it a power move. My phone buzzed again. Paris this time. Heads up, Denise is spreading weird rumors about you getting help. Want me to shut it down? No, I texted back. I've got this. The next day, I walked into the conference room for my presentation wearing my power suit and the presence Eva had helped me cultivate. My team sat straighter when I entered. Even my boss, Lionel, seemed to notice something different. Before we begin, I announced, I'd like to share something personal. The room quieted. I've recently started working with an executive coach to enhance my leadership skills. Because true leaders never stop growing. Lionel nodded approvingly. The presentation went perfectly, and afterward he called me into his office. That was impressive, he said. Not just the presentation, the way you carried yourself. You're different lately. Thank you, I'm working on it. Keep working, the Seattle office will need strong leadership. I blinked. Are you saying, we'll talk details next week? He smiled. Whatever you're doing, it's working. That evening, I finally answered Josh's call. Where have you been? He demanded. Denise said she saw you at some wellness center getting therapy or something? Executive coaching, I corrected. And yes, I'm working on my professional development. How are you, Josh? What? Look, Denise feels terrible about dinner. She wants to make it right. I'm sure she does. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not interested in making her feel better about her behavior. The words came easily now. If she wants to apologize, she can do it directly. No triangulation. When did you get so different? When I stopped accepting unacceptable behavior. I paused. I hear there's a family sports day coming up? Yeah, Denise is organizing it. You're coming? Wouldn't miss it. I smiled, thinking of Eva's training. Tell Denise I'm really looking forward to it. After hanging up, I texted Eva. Just stood up to both my brother and my boss in the same day, in completely different ways. Her response came quickly. Perfect. Now, about those sports day plans? I grinned, feeling stronger than ever. Denise wanted a show of strength. She was going to get one. Just not the kind she expected. My phone buzzed one more time. A message from Paris. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You sound different. Stronger. I am, I texted back. And I'm just getting started. And now let's welcome our next speaker, Wendy, who's leading our corporate wellness initiative. The applause echoed through the community center as I took the stage. 6 weeks into Eva's program, and here I was, speaking at a charity event about mental health in the workplace. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years ago, I began, my voice steady and strong. I sat in my office after closing a major deal, feeling like an imposter. Success didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel more vulnerable to criticism. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Denise slipping into the back of the room. Paris must have told her about the event. Perfect. But true strength isn't about looking powerful, I continued. It's about being powerful. It's about standing tall when others try to make you small. It's about lifting others up instead of tearing them down. The audience leaned forward, engaged. Even Denise stood still, her usual smirk nowhere to be seen. That's why our new corporate wellness program focuses on mental resilience alongside physical health, because you can't build one without the other. After the speech, people crowded around, sharing their stories. A young woman grabbed my hand, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was the only one," she whispered. "Thank you for speaking up." Ava appeared at my side, beaming. "Now that's what I call taking up space." "Wendy?" Denise's voice cut through the crowd. She looked different, smaller somehow, less certain. "Can we talk?" Ava squeezed my arm and stepped away, leaving us alone. "That was unexpected," Denise said, fidgeting with her designer handbag. "I didn't know you were involved in this kind of work." "There's a lot you don't know about me, Denise." "Look, about the family dinner." "Save it," I interrupted, keeping my voice low but firm. "I'm not interested in apologies that come from seeing me succeed. Where was this conversation when you thought I was failing?" Her face flushed. "I was trying to help." "No, you were trying to feel superior. There's a difference." I gathered my papers from the podium. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have people waiting." "Josh misses you," she blurted out. "He says you've changed." "I haven't changed, Denise. I've just stopped shrinking." As I turned to leave, she grabbed my arm. "Wait, there's something you should know." "What's that?" "The family sports day. I organized it because I thought—" She swallowed hard. "I thought it would be another chance to prove I'm better than you." The admission hung between us. For the first time, I saw past Denise's perfect exterior to something fragile underneath. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because watching you up there, owning that stage, I realized I've been competing with the wrong person. I've been so focused on proving my worth by diminishing yours." "Denise." "No, let me finish. My sister was always the successful one, the pretty one. I thought marrying into your family would finally make me the superior sister somewhere. But I've been horrible to you, and today I saw what real strength looks like." I studied her face, searching for the usual manipulation, but found only raw honesty. "The sports day is still happening," she continued. "But maybe it could be about something else, something better." Before I could respond, my boss Lionel approached. "Wendy, the board members loved your presentation. They want to implement your wellness program in all our offices, including Seattle." "Seattle?" Denise asked. "Yes," I replied, standing taller. "I'm being promoted to run the new regional office." Denise's eyes widened. "You're moving?" "No, I'll be managing it remotely, building a virtual team, innovation and leadership, just like I talked about today." Lionel nodded approvingly. "The future of corporate leadership. Wendy's pioneering our new approach." After he left, Denise stood quietly for a moment. "I really messed up, didn't I?" "Yes," I said simply. "You did. Can we start over?" I thought about Eva's lessons in power and grace. "No, we can't start over. But we can start from here, differently." "How?" "First, by you understanding that I'm not your competition. I never was. And second," I smiled, thinking of the sports day ahead, "by showing everyone what real strength looks like. Together." Denise's phone buzzed, Josh's face appearing on the screen. She hesitated before declining the call. "He needs to understand too," she said quietly. "About how he let this happen. One step at a time," I replied. "The sports day is in 6 weeks. Let's show them all what we can do when we stop fighting each other and start fighting for something better." As Denise walked away, Eva returned to my side. "Well, that was unexpected." "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" "That depends." Eva grinned. Are you ready to turn this revenge story into something more powerful? I watched Denise's retreating figure, thinking about transformation and redemption. I'm ready for whatever comes next. You're doing what? Mom nearly dropped her casserole dish as I helped her prepare for another family dinner. 2 weeks had passed since the charity event, and I'd finally agreed to return to these Sunday gatherings. Training with Denise, I repeated, arranging silverware on the table, twice a week. The same Denise who... Mom trailed off, clearly remembering the last dinner disaster. Yes, that Denise. People can change, Mom. Paris burst through the kitchen door, grinning. They're here, and you won't believe what's happening in the driveway. I walked to the window. Outside, Josh was staring open-mouthed as Denise and I's new project unfolded. She was helping Eva unload equipment from her car. Is that a meditation cushion? Mom asked, peering over my shoulder. And yoga mats, I confirmed. We're doing a demonstration after dinner. A demonstration of what exactly? Different kinds of strength. The front door opened and Josh's voice carried through the house. Would someone please explain what's going on? Denise hasn't stopped talking about Wendy all week, and now this? I walked into the living room, shoulders back, chin up, just as Eva had taught me. Josh did a double take. Whether at my posture or my presence, I wasn't sure. Hey, brother, I said calmly. We have a lot to talk about. Denise entered behind him, carrying a yoga mat. Should we set up in the backyard? The lighting's better there. Perfect, I agreed. Josh looked between us like we were speaking alien language. Okay, what parallel universe did I wake up in? One where your wife and sister finally figured out they're stronger as allies than enemies. Paris chimed in, helping Eva with the remaining equipment. During dinner, the tension was different than before. Not gone, but transformed. Josh kept glancing between Denise and me, trying to decode our new dynamic. So, Dad ventured, this sports day, it's still happening? Absolutely, Denise replied. But we've modified the concept. Instead of competition, it's about demonstration. Different types of strength, different ways of leading. Speaking of which, I added, standing up, who's ready for a little preview? We moved to the backyard where Eva had set up a small area with mats and cushions. The family gathered around, curious and slightly skeptical. Leadership, I began, isn't about dominating others. It's about inspiring them. I nodded to Denise, who stepped forward. For years, she said, her voice shaking slightly, I thought being strong meant making others feel weak. I was wrong. Josh shifted uncomfortably. Denise, you don't have to... Yes, I do. She cut him off. Because you need to hear this too, Josh. You watched me tear your sister down and you said nothing. The backyard fell silent. Even the birds seemed to pause. I enabled it, Josh admitted quietly. I was afraid of losing you if I spoke up. That's not love, Denise replied. That's fear. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Eva stepped forward. Shall we show them what we've been working on? For the next 30 minutes, we demonstrated exercises in partner trust, balance, and mutual support. Not just physical exercises, but emotional ones, too. The family watched as Denise and I moved through sequences that required complete cooperation. Now, Eva addressed the family. Who wants to try? To everyone's surprise, Mom stood up first. I think it's time I learned some new ways of being strong, too. One by one, family members joined us on the mats. Even Josh, after some coaxing, participated in a trust fall exercise with both Denise and me. Later, as we were packing up, Josh pulled me aside. I don't understand, he said. How did this happen? We both realized we were fighting the wrong battle, I explained. Denise needed to prove she was worthy of being part of this family, and I needed to prove I was worthy of my success. We were both wrong. And the sports day? Will be a demonstration of real strength. All kinds of strength. I paused. You should join us in training. I wouldn't know where to start. That's exactly where everyone starts, Josh, with not knowing. As the family helped clean up, I caught Denise looking at her reflection in the patio door. She wasn't checking her appearance as she usually did. She was practicing her power pose. "Ready for next week's corporate wellness presentation?" I asked her. She nodded. "Ready to show them what real transformation looks like." Mom appeared beside us, holding the meditation cushion. "Can I keep this? I think I need to learn some new things too." I hugged her, feeling the years of unspoken tensions beginning to dissolve. "We all do, Mom. We all do." As Ava drove away, she gave me a thumbs up through the window. Phase 1 of our plan was complete. The family was on board. Now came the harder part: preparing for a sports day that would redefine what victory really means. "Again," Ava's voice echoed through the community center. "This time, focus on the transition." Denise and I moved through our sequence, a combination of yoga poses and partner exercises we'd created for the sports day demonstration. 2 weeks to go, and we were training daily. "Better," Ava called out. "But Denise, you're still trying to control everything. Trust Wendy's strength." "Sorry," Denise muttered, her face flushed. "Old habits." "Don't apologize," I said, helping her up. "Just breathe and try again." Josh walked in, carrying water bottles for everyone. He'd been joining our sessions regularly now, slowly understanding the new dynamic between his wife and sister. "Mom's outside," he announced. "She's nervous about trying the group sequence." "I'll talk to her," Denise offered, surprising us all. She jogged outside, leaving Josh and me alone. "She's different," Josh said quietly. "You both are." "Good different?" "Real different." He handed me a water bottle. "I've been thinking about that dinner. About all the dinners, really. I should have—" "Stop," I interrupted. "We're not doing guilt. We're doing growth." Ava clapped her hands. "Break's over. Josh, you're up. Let's work on that trust fall sequence." Mom entered with Denise, looking apprehensive but determined. "I brought snacks," she announced, holding up a bag. "And I've been practicing those breathing exercises." "Show us," Ava encouraged. For the next hour, we worked as a family. Mom surprised everyone with her natural grace in the slower movements. Josh finally managed to let go of his need to control every fall. And Denise showed glimpses of a person I'd never known existed. During a water break, I overheard her on the phone. "No, Sarah, I won't be teaching the morning yoga class anymore. Because I'm working on something more important. No, it's not about weight loss. Look, I have to go." She caught me listening and shrugged. "Some people won't understand what we're doing here. Are you okay with that?" "I'm learning to be." She twisted her water bottle cap. "My sister called yesterday. First time in months." "The successful one?" "Yeah, I told her about our project, about redefining strength." She laughed. And for the first time, her laugh didn't destroy me. Denise smiled. "Progress, right?" Ava called us back to practice. We were working on the finale sequence when Paris burst through the door. "Emergency," she announced. "Dad found the sports day program draft." My stomach dropped. We'd been keeping the details secret, wanting to surprise everyone with how we'd transformed the event from competition to collaboration. "What did he say?" Josh asked. "He's confused. Says it's not really a sports day without winners and losers." Paris handed me her phone. "He's texting everyone about it." I read the message thread, feeling my old insecurities trying to surface. But Eva's training kicked in. Shoulders back, chin up, own your space. "Good," I said firmly. "Let's show him exactly what we mean by winning." We worked later than usual that night, perfecting every movement. Mom stayed the whole time, her determination matching ours. Even Josh mastered sequences he'd struggled with for weeks. As we were packing up, Denise pulled me aside. "There's something I haven't told you." "What is it?" "I invited my sister to the sports day." She rushed on before I could respond. I need her to understand what I've learned from you." "From us," I corrected. We learned together. Ava joined us, holding her clipboard. Ladies, we have 10 days left. The invitations have gone out, the program is set, and thanks to Paris's social media skills, we're expecting quite a crowd. How many? I asked, suddenly nervous. About 100 people. Ava grinned at our shocked expressions. Turns out there's a lot of interest in redefining strength and family dynamics. Mom appeared with her yoga mat rolled under her arm. I invited my book club too. Hope that's okay. I looked around the room. At Josh practicing his breathing techniques, at Paris filming segments for social media, at Mom proudly showing off her improved balance, at Denise teaching Eva a new stretch sequence. It's more than okay, I said. It's perfect. Later that night, I received a text from Dad. This sports day program, it's different. I replied, yes, it is. Come to tomorrow's practice. See for yourself. His response came quickly. What time? I smiled, sending him the details. The last piece was falling into place. In 10 days, we would show everyone that true strength isn't about domination. It's about transformation. Eva's final text of the night read, remember where you started. Look where you are. Imagine where you're going. I looked in the mirror, seeing not just my reflection, but the echo of every woman who'd ever been told she wasn't enough. In 10 days, we would change that story. Together, the community center buzzed with energy. Over 100 people filled the converted gymnasium, including my entire extended family, Denise's sister Amanda, Mom's book club, and even my entire tech team. Paris's social media campaign had worked better than expected. Breathe, Ava reminded me as we peeked through the curtain. You've got this. Denise appeared beside us, wearing the same style workout gear as mine. No more designer labels or perfect makeup. My sister's in the front row, she whispered, looking judgmental as ever. Perfect place to watch her worldview shift, I replied, squeezing her hand. The lights dimmed and Eva stepped out to address the crowd. Welcome to Redefining Strength, a demonstration of power that goes beyond the physical. She paused, scanning the audience. 3 months ago, 2 women came to me with a story about family, rivalry, and pain. Today, they'll show you how that story transformed into something extraordinary. That was our cue. Denise and I walked out together, the spotlight catching us as we took our positions. The routine we'd practiced hundreds of times began flowing naturally. Movements that required complete trust, balance, and mutual support. From the corner of my eye, I caught Amanda's shocked expression as her sister, usually so focused on perfect appearances, moved with authentic power instead of practiced precision. The sequence built gradually, incorporating Josh, then Mom, then Dad, each demonstrating different aspects of strength. Dad, who'd been skeptical at first, now moved with surprising grace through the trust exercises. Then came the moment we'd prepared for. I stepped forward, Denise beside me. 3 months ago, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the room. I sat at a family dinner feeling worthless because I didn't fit someone else's definition of success. And I was that someone, Denise added, trying to feel powerful by making others feel small. We moved through our next sequence as we spoke, demonstrating physical harmony while sharing emotional truth. But true strength, I continued, executing a balanced pose with Denise, isn't about domination. It's about transformation, Denise finished, supporting my weight as we'd practiced countless times. The audience was silent, captivated. Even Amanda had dropped her skeptical expression. We transitioned into the group demonstration, where Ava had arranged for volunteers from the audience to join us. Mom's entire book club participated, along with several of my tech team members. Leadership isn't about being perfect, I announced, guiding a nervous volunteer through a simple sequence. It's about being authentic. And family isn't about competition, Denise added, working with another group. It's about elevation. The energy in the room shifted as more people joined in, learning simple movements that demonstrated connection rather than competition. Even Amanda, after some coaxing from Mom, participated in a basic partner exercise. The finale brought everyone together in a series of connected movements, showing how individual strength contributes to collective power. As the last sequence ended, the room erupted in applause. Ava stepped forward again. "This is just the beginning. We're launching weekly sessions here at the community center, teaching these principles to anyone who wants to learn." People crowded around afterward, sharing their own stories of family tension and transformation. Amanda approached Denise, her usual poise slightly shaken. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. This isn't what I expected." "That's kind of the point," Denise replied, standing tall. "I'm not trying to be you anymore. I'm learning to be me." The sisters hugged, awkwardly at first, then with genuine emotion. My tech team surrounded me, led by Lionel. "Now this," he said, "is the kind of innovative leadership we need in Seattle. When can you start?" "I already have," I replied, watching as Mom taught her book club members one of our breathing exercises. Leadership happens everywhere, not just in offices. Josh appeared with Dad, both still in their workout gear. "So," Dad said, "this is what you meant by different kinds of strength." "Did we prove our point?" I asked. He hugged me, then Denise. "You proved something better. You proved that family can change." Paris bounced over, phone in hand. "The video's already going viral. People are asking about training programs, workshops, everything." Ava joined us, beaming. "Ready for phase 2? "Phase 2? Josh asked. "The real work," Denise explained. "Taking this message beyond today. Teaching others what we learned." I looked around the room, at Mom sharing techniques with her friends, at Dad proudly explaining our program to relatives, at Josh finally standing comfortable in his own skin, at Denise and Amanda beginning to build a new kind of sisterhood. "We're ready," I said. Eva smiled. "Then let's show them what real power looks like." As people began filing out, carrying new knowledge and perspective with them, I caught Denise's eye across the room. We shared a knowing look. This wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of a better one. "Ready for this?" Ava asked as we stood outside my parents' house for another Sunday dinner. The first one since the sports day demonstration. "Different kind of strength needed today," I replied, adjusting my blazer. I'd just flown back from Seattle after finalizing plans for the new office. Denise's car pulled up, and she stepped out wearing business casual instead of her usual designer outfit. "Sorry I'm late. The community center class ran over." "How's the new program going?" I asked as we walked to the door. "Full registration. Turns out a lot of people want to learn about real strength." She smiled. "Amanda's even talking about starting a similar program in her city." Mom opened the door before we could knock, pulling us into a group hug. The house smelled of lasagna. The same dish from that fateful dinner months ago. "Perfect timing," she said. "Paris is setting up for the announcement." We entered to find the dining room transformed. Instead of the usual formal setup, the table had been pushed to one side, creating an open space with cushions arranged in a circle. Dad and Josh were already seated, looking both amused and comfortable with the change. "Look what arrived." Paris bounded in, holding up a magazine. On the cover was a photo from our sports day demonstration with the headline, "Redefining Corporate Wellness, How Two Women Transformed Family Rivalry into Revolutionary Leadership." "The article's already generating interest from other companies," I said, sitting down. "They want to implement our program nationwide." "And the community center is expanding to 3 more locations," Denise added. "Eva's training new instructors next week." Josh reached for Denise's hand. "Remember when you used to measure success by how many people showed up to your yoga classes? Remember when you used to measure it by keeping everyone happy?" She countered gently. "Speaking of measuring things differently," Mom interrupted, bringing in the lasagna, "I have news." We all turned to her. She stood straighter, using the presence techniques we'd taught her. "I'm going back to school," she announced, "to get my counseling degree. All those years mediating family drama, might as well make it official." "Mom," Paris squealed, "that's amazing." Dad stood up, wrapping an arm around Mom's waist. "Tell them the rest." The community center offered me a part-time position. Mom continued. Running support groups for families dealing with similar issues to ours. Looks like transformation runs in the family, Eva observed. As we settled into dinner, the conversation flowed naturally. No forced politeness, no hidden barbs, no competition for attention. I've been thinking, Denise said during a lull, about that first dinner when all this started. The room quieted. I was so wrong, she continued, but I'm grateful for that wrongness now. It led us here. To lasagna? Josh joked. To truth, I corrected. To real strength. Speaking of which, Paris chimed in. Wait until you see the messages we're getting from the article. People sharing their own family transformation stories. It's becoming a movement. A movement needs leaders, Eva said pointedly. I nodded, understanding. That's actually why I wanted everyone here tonight. The Seattle office isn't just about tech anymore. We're launching a full corporate wellness division, focusing on authentic leadership and strength. And, Denise added, we're partnering with community centers nationwide to make these programs accessible to everyone. We? Dad asked. I've asked Denise to head up the community outreach program, I explained. Nobody better understands both sides of this transformation. Denise blinked back tears. I haven't said yes yet. But you will, Josh said softly, because you finally found your real strength. We all did, Mom added, serving the lasagna. Now who's hungry? As we ate, I watched my family. Really watched them. Dad discussing program logistics with Eva, Mom sharing course catalogs with Paris, Josh and Denise planning community outreach strategies. Hey, Denise caught my attention. Remember when I thought strength was about making others feel weak? Remember when I let you? She laughed. A real laugh, not the perfect social titter she used to affect. We were both so lost. Not lost, I corrected, just looking for strength in the wrong places. And now? I gestured around the room, at our transformed family, at the magazine cover, at the future unfolding before us. Now we're showing others where to find it. Eva raised her glass. To finding strength in unexpected places. To family, Mom added. To transformation, Denise offered. To truth, Josh contributed. To all of it, I concluded. And to whatever comes next. As we clinked glasses, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman looking back wasn't seeking revenge anymore. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was simply, powerfully, authentically herself. And that was the greatest transformation of all.
The first time my mother-in-law suggested I wasn't good enough for her son, she did it with a smile, holding a cup of Earl Grey tea in her perfectly manicured hands. I just want what's best for Daniel, dear, she said, her voice dripping with honey-coated venom. My name is Reagan, and I've spent the last 5 years trying to be the perfect wife, only to realize perfect isn't good enough for Christine King. When are you two planning to give me grandchildren? Christine asked during our weekly Sunday brunch, the same question she'd been asking every week for the past 3 years. I felt Daniel squeeze my hand under the table, but he remained silent, as usual. We're focusing on our careers right now, I replied, the rehearsed answer feeling stale on my tongue. The truth was messier, filled with negative pregnancy tests and tearful nights, but Christine didn't deserve to know that part of our lives. Tabitha's youngest just started walking, Christine continued, referring to her friend's daughter. Such a precious time. I do hope I get to experience that joy myself. Someday. The pause before someday felt like a knife to my heart. Daniel cleared his throat. Mum, please. Oh, I'm just making conversation, darling. Christine waved her hand dismissively. Reagan knows I mean well, don't you, dear? I forced a smile. Of course. Later that evening, as Daniel and I cleaned up after dinner at our own home, I could feel the weight of unspoken words between us. Your mother means well, I said, more to fill the silence than anything else. I know she can be intense, Daniel replied, drying a plate. But she loves us. I wanted to argue, To tell him about the way she looked at me when he wasn't watching, the subtle digs wrapped in politeness, the constant comparisons to other women. But I stayed quiet, just like I always did. Jolie called earlier, I said instead, mentioning my sister. She wants us to come over for dinner next weekend. I can't. Mum's organising something at the house. She says it's important, something about future family planning. Daniel's casual tone made my stomach drop. You should come too. Future family planning, I repeated, my hand freezing mid-wipe on a wine glass. Yeah, she wasn't very specific. Probably just wants to discuss holiday arrangements or something. I nodded, but something felt off. Christine never did anything without a precise purpose, and future family planning sounded ominously specific. That night, I couldn't sleep. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Daniel, and made my way to our home office. Opening my laptop, I pulled up Christine's social media. 20 minutes of scrolling revealed nothing unusual until I spotted a comment on one of her friend's posts. Looking forward to introducing Tabitha to the family next Sunday. She's exactly what we need. My blood ran cold. Tabitha. The name triggered a memory, Christine mentioning her at brunch, but there was more. I'd heard that name before, multiple times. Always in passing, always with that tone of admiration Christine never used when speaking about me. I grabbed my phone and typed out a quick message to Jolie. Need to talk. Emergency. Her response came immediately. Call me. I stepped onto our balcony, the night air cool against my skin. I think Daniel's mother is trying to set him up with someone else, I whispered into the phone. What? That's insane. Jolie's voice crackled through the speaker. She's invited this woman, Tabitha, to a family planning meeting, the same Tabitha she's been not so subtly mentioning for months. That manipulative I know, I cut her off, glancing back through the glass doors to make sure Daniel was still asleep. I don't know what to do. You need to tell Daniel. And say what? Hey, honey, I think your mom is trying to replace me with her friend's daughter. He'll think I'm paranoid. Then we'll prove it, Jolie said firmly. Send me everything you have. We'll figure this out. As I hung up, I heard movement inside. Through the glass, I watched Daniel turn over in his sleep, peaceful and unaware. My wonderful, loving husband, caught between his wife and his mother, never seeing the war being waged around him. I stepped back inside, my mind racing. For 5 years, I'd played the perfect daughter-in-law, swallowing every subtle insult, accepting every criticism. But something inside me had shifted. The thought of Christine sitting in her pristine living room, planning my replacement while sipping her precious Earl Grey, made my blood boil. This time would be different. This time I wouldn't just smile and nod. This time I would fight back. Holy shit, Reagan, look at this. Jolie spun her laptop around, nearly knocking over her coffee cup in the process. We were sitting in her cramped home office, surrounded by the organised chaos of her freelance photography business. The screen showed Tabitha's social media profile, young, blonde and accomplished. She looked exactly like Christine's type, but it wasn't her perfect smile that made my stomach turn. It was her latest post. So excited to meet a special family this weekend. Sometimes life gives you unexpected second chances. Posted 3 days ago, I read aloud, my voice shaking. She tagged Christine in it. There's more, Jolie said, scrolling down. They've been commenting on each other's posts for months. Look at this one from Christine. You would make such a wonderful addition to our family. I felt sick. She's been planning this for months. That's not all. Jolie pulled up another window. Tabitha is a fertility specialist. She runs her own clinic downtown. A fertility specialist? I laughed bitterly. Of course she is. Christine probably thinks she's the answer to all her grandchildren's prayers. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Mum wants to know if you're coming Sunday. What should I say? I showed Jolie the message. Tell him you have food poisoning. Or better yet, tell him the truth. I shook my head. I need more proof first. Something concrete. Then let's get it. Jolie grabbed her car keys. Tabitha's clinic is 15 minutes away. Time for some reconnaissance. What? No, we can't just... Watch me. She was already heading for the door. Coming. 20 minutes later, we sat in Jolie's car outside Tabitha's clinic, watching people come and go. "This is insane," I muttered. "What's insane is your mother-in-law trying to set your husband up with another woman." Jolie pointed at the entrance. "Look, there she is." Sure enough, Christine was walking into the clinic, her designer handbag swinging from her arm. My heart raced. "Follow her," I said, surprising myself. We slipped into the clinic behind her, pretending to be interested in some pamphlets, while Christine spoke to the receptionist. "Mrs. King, Dr. Erickson will see you now," the receptionist called out. "Perfect timing," Christine said, standing. "I wanted to discuss Sunday's arrangement." As she disappeared down the hallway, Jolie nudged me. "See? This isn't just a casual brunch. It's an ambush." "Excuse me," a friendly voice interrupted us. We turned to find an elderly man in a cardigan watching us with knowing eyes. "I couldn't help but overhear. You're Daniel's wife, aren't you?" I tensed. "How do you—" "I'm Solomon," he said softly. "I've known Christine for years. I've watched her meddle in things she shouldn't." He glanced around before continuing. "If you're looking for answers, you might want to check your husband's medical records. Christine requested copies last week." "She what?" My voice came out sharper than intended. "She doesn't have that right," Jolie protested. Solomon smiled sadly. "Christine has ways of getting what she wants. Always has." He handed me a business card. "If you need someone to talk to, someone who understands what you're dealing with, give me a call." After he left, Jolie and I stared at each other. Why would Christine want Daniel's medical records? I wondered aloud. "Maybe she's trying to prove there's something wrong with you," Jolie suggested. "You know, to convince Daniel you're the problem." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Daniel. "Mum says she has something important to discuss about our future. Please come Sunday." I showed Jolie the message. "You need to find out what's in those records," she said firmly. "How? I can't just walk in and demand—" "No," Jolie interrupted, a gleam in her eye. "But you're his wife. You can schedule a consultation. For both of you." I stared at her. "You want me to schedule a fertility consultation?" "Think about it. If Christine is planning what we think she's planning, you need to know exactly what she knows. And maybe," Jolie paused, "maybe it's time to get some real answers anyway." I looked at the clinic entrance, then at my phone with Daniel's message still glowing on the screen. 5 years of trying, of disappointment, of Christine's subtle blame. 5 years of questions we'd been too afraid to ask. "Okay," I said, standing up, "let's do it." As we approached the reception desk, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Whatever Christine was planning, whatever secrets those medical records held, I was done being in the dark. Sunday's family planning meeting wasn't going to go the way Christine expected. Not this time. Solomon's antique shop smelled like old books and furniture polish. I found him in the back, carefully restoring a Victorian music box. "I was hoping you'd come," he said, setting down his tools. "Tea?" "I scheduled a fertility consultation," I blurted out. "For tomorrow." He nodded, gesturing to a worn leather armchair. "Does Daniel know?" I told him it was a surprise, that I wanted to take the next step in our journey together. I sank into the chair. He seemed happy. And Christine? Still planning her Sunday ambush. I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest social media updates. She and Tabitha had lunch yesterday. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Solomon poured 2 cups of tea, his movements deliberate. "You know, I was there when Christine drove away Daniel's first girlfriend in college. Sweet girl named Maria. Christine decided she wasn't ambitious enough. What happened to her? Married a doctor in Boston, has 3 kids now." He smiled wryly. "Christine never forgave herself for that. Those could have been her grandchildren." "Is that why she's so obsessed with me having babies?" "Partly." Solomon handed me a cup. "But mostly, it's about control. Christine needs to be the architect of her son's happiness. Anyone who threatens that becomes the enemy. Like me. Like you." He sat across from me. "But you're different from Maria. You're fighting back." I stared into my tea. I don't even know what I'm fighting for anymore. What if there is something wrong with me? What if Christine is right? About what? Your worth as a human being. Solomon's voice sharpened. The moment you start measuring your value by Christine's standards, she wins. But, no buts, he leaned forward. Tomorrow, you'll get answers. Real ones. But whatever those answers are, remember this. Christine's actions aren't about fertility or grandchildren. They're about power. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Mom's being weird. Keeps talking about new beginnings and family healing. You sure you can't come Sunday? He's so blind to it all, I muttered. Men often are when it comes to their mothers. Solomon stood walking to an old cabinet. You know what's interesting about restoration work? Sometimes to fix something valuable, you have to break it apart first. He returned with a small wooden box. This was Christine's. She pawned it years ago during a rough patch. Never came back for it. Inside was a stack of old photographs. Young Christine holding baby Daniel. Christine at Daniel's graduation. Family vacations, birthdays, holidays. She looks happy, I said, surprised. She was. Before the divorce, before she had to rebuild her life from scratch. Solomon took the box back. That's when the control issues started. She swore she'd never let anyone else make decisions for her family again. So she makes them for everyone else instead. Exactly, he paused. The consultation tomorrow. Use it. Not just for answers, but for ammunition. Ammunition? Information is power, Reagan. Right now, Christine thinks she holds all the cards. She's planned this Sunday down to the last detail. But what if you change the game entirely? Understanding dawned. You want me to crash her party? I want you to take control of your own story, he smiled. And maybe teach Christine a lesson about karma in the process. My phone buzzed again, Jolie this time. Found more dirt on Tabitha. She's been divorced twice. Both times married men with controlling mothers. Sound familiar? I showed Solomon the message. History repeating itself, he mused. Or trying to. Not this time, I said, standing up. Tomorrow I get answers. Sunday, I use them. Be careful, Solomon warned. Christine won't take this lying down. Good. I gathered my things. It's about time she stood up and faced what she's doing. As I reached the door, Solomon called out, Reagan, remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about forcing them to face their own reflection. Walking to my car, I felt lighter somehow. Tomorrow's consultation loomed ahead, but it no longer felt like a threat. Instead, it felt like ammunition, just as Solomon said. I texted Daniel, can't wait for our appointment tomorrow. Love you. Then I texted Jolie, keep digging on Tabitha. I want to know everything. Finally, I saved Sunday's brunch in my calendar, adding a simple note. The day Christine learns about karma. Whatever tomorrow's results showed, whatever Christine had planned for Sunday, one thing was certain. I wasn't going to be the quiet, compliant daughter-in-law anymore. It was time to show Christine that her perfect plan had one fatal flaw. She'd underestimated me. The fertility clinic waiting room felt colder than it should. Daniel held my hand, smiling encouragingly, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. This was a great idea, honey, he said, taking charge of our future like this. If only he knew how right he was. A nurse called us in, leading us through a maze of corridors. Not Tabitha's office, thankfully. We'd been assigned to Dr. Matthews, a kind-faced woman in her 50s. So, Dr. Matthews said, reviewing our file, you've been trying for 5 years? Yes, Daniel answered. We thought maybe it was just timing, but... Have either of you been tested before? I watched Daniel's face carefully as he answered. No, I guess we were afraid of what we might find out. Dr. Matthews nodded. That's common, but knowledge is power. Shall we start with some basic tests? The next hour passed in a blur of blood draws, forms, and questions. So many questions. Had we tried tracking ovulation? Yes. Any family history of fertility issues? Not that we knew of. Any previous pregnancies? No. Finally, Dr. Matthews called us back to her office. We'll need a few days for most results, she explained, but there are some things we can determine immediately. My phone buzzed. Jolie. Christine just posted about Sunday, looking forward to a life-changing family gathering. What's the plan? I silenced my phone as Dr. Matthews pulled up some charts on her computer. Daniel, she said gently, your preliminary results show significant issues with sperm motility and count. This would make natural conception extremely difficult, if not impossible. The room went silent. I felt Daniel's hand go rigid in mine. What? He whispered. There are treatments we can discuss, Dr. Matthews continued, but I want to be clear, this isn't something that will resolve on its own. I watched my husband's face crumble, years of unspoken guilt and blame suddenly redirected. But my mother always said. He stopped himself, but I knew what he meant. Christine had always implied the problem was me, all those pointed comments about my age, my stress levels, my career focus. Reagan's preliminary results, on the other hand, show normal fertility levels, Dr. Matthews added, though I barely heard her. My mind was racing. Christine had accessed these records. She knew. She had to know. And yet she'd spent years subtly blaming me, and now she was trying to set Daniel up with a fertility specialist. Can we get these results in writing? I heard myself ask. Of course. Dr. Matthews began printing documents. I'll have the full report ready by Friday. Friday. 2 days before the Sunday brunch. Daniel was quiet as we left the clinic, his usual confidence shattered. In the parking lot, he finally spoke. I need to process this. Maybe take a walk. Want company? He shook his head. I need to think. As he walked away, my phone buzzed again. Jolie. Found something big. Come over now. 20 minutes later, I sat in Jolie's office, staring at her computer screen. Look at this, she said, pulling up Tabitha's medical license records. She lost her practice in Boston 3 years ago. Guess why? Why? She was caught falsifying fertility records for wealthy clients, changed test results to push expensive, unnecessary treatments. Jesus, I sat back. Does Christine know? She must. The records are public. Jolie pulled up more documents. But wait, it gets better. Guess who helped Tabitha set up her new practice here? My blood ran cold. Christine? Bingo. She co-signed the lease on the clinic building. They've been planning this for months. I felt sick. She knew about Daniel's infertility. She knew, and instead of supporting us, she planned… What? To have him leave me for a disgraced fertility doctor? A disgraced fertility doctor who owes her everything, Jolie corrected. Think about it. Christine would have complete control over both Daniel's new wife and any future grandchildren's conception. My phone lit up with a text from Daniel. Mum keeps calling. I can't deal with Sunday right now. Can you tell her we can't make it? I showed Jolie the message. Perfect, she said. Let her think you're not coming. Then show up with those test results and expose everything. I thought about Solomon's words about karma and reflections, about Christine's years of manipulation, about Daniel walking alone somewhere, carrying a burden that was never his to bear alone. No, I said slowly. I have a better idea. Better than public humiliation? I smiled. A plan forming. Much better. We're going to give Christine exactly what she wants. A Sunday brunch about family planning. Just not the way she planned it. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time for some truth-telling. I pulled out my phone. But first I need to make a call to Solomon. We're going to need help setting the perfect stage. Are you absolutely sure about this? Solomon asked, arranging vintage teacups on his antique dining table. We'd chosen his house as neutral ground for what I was calling the counter brunch. Christine's brunch starts at 11, I said, checking my phone. Ours starts at 10. Daniel just needs to choose which one to attend. And you think he'll choose this one? I handed him the invitation I'd crafted. Daniel, before you make any decisions about our future, there are truths you need to know. Come to Solomon's at 10 a.m. Sunday. All your questions will be answered. Reagan. Intriguing enough to make him curious, Solomon nodded. But vague enough to avoid tipping your hand. My phone buzzed. Jolie. Tabitha just posted, ready to meet my destiny tomorrow. Gag. She's really laying it on thick, I muttered, showing Solomon the message. Christine's influence, he said. She always did have a flair for dramatic timing. The doorbell rang. Dr. Matthews stood outside, clutching a manila envelope. The full test results, as requested, she said, handing them over. Are you sure you want to do this? Medical information is usually handled more privately. Privacy has been weaponized against us long enough, I replied. Thank you for coming. After she left, Solomon helped me arrange the documents on the table. Daniel's results, Tabitha's disciplinary records, Christine's property documents showing her connection to the clinic. Everything laid out like a prosecutor's evidence. Now we wait, Solomon said. Have you heard from Daniel since the clinic? He's been distant, processing. I checked my messages. Christine's called him 12 times. Damage control, Solomon mused. She knows the test results threaten her narrative. My phone lit up. Daniel. Mum's getting pushy about tomorrow. Says she has life-changing news. What's going on? I showed Solomon the message before replying, I have life-changing news too. Solomon's 10 a.m. Your choice. Brief, Solomon approved, but powerful. Now comes the hard part, I said, sinking into a chair. Waiting. The next morning dawned clear and cold. I arrived at Solomon's at 9, my stomach in knots. Jolie was already there, setting up her laptop to document everything. Tabitha just checked in at Christine's house on social media, she reported. Posted a picture of Christine's famous scones with the caption, New Beginnings. If everything goes according to plan, she'll be choking on those scones, I muttered. At 9:45, Solomon's antique clock ticked loudly in the silence. My phone buzzed. Christine. Daniel tells me you've invited him to some sort of meeting. Whatever you're planning, don't embarrass yourself further. I showed Solomon and Jolie the message. She's scared, Solomon said. She knows she's losing control. 9:50. No word from Daniel. 9:55. Jolie squeezed my hand. He'll come. 9:58. A car door slammed outside. He's here, Solomon said, peeking through the curtains. And he's not alone. My heart stopped. Christine? No. Solomon smiled. Dr. Matthews. I might have suggested she drop by. 10. The doorbell rang. Daniel stood on the porch, looking tired but determined. Dr. Matthews stood behind him. I ran into Dr. Matthews in the parking lot, he said. She mentioned you'd asked her to come. Please come in, Solomon said. We have a lot to discuss. Daniel's eyes widened as he took in the documents spread across the table. What is all this? The truth, I said simply. About everything. Your mother's brunch starts in an hour, Dr. Matthews added. But first, I think you need to see what she's been hiding. Daniel picked up the first document, his complete fertility results. Then Tabitha's disciplinary records. His hands shook as he read. Mom, she knew, he whispered, all this time. Keep reading, Jolie encouraged, pulling up more evidence on her laptop. As Daniel absorbed each new piece of information, I watched the realization dawn in his eyes. Years of manipulation, carefully documented and laid bare. There's more, I said softly. But first, you need to decide. Do you want to know everything? Or do you want to go to your mother's brunch and hear her version? Daniel looked at his watch, then at the documents, then at me. In that moment, I saw the weight of his choice, the comfortable lie versus the painful truth. Finally, he pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. We all heard the whoosh of the text sending. What did you tell her? I asked. That I won't be coming to brunch, he said, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in days. I told her I'm exactly where I need to be. Solomon quietly began pouring tea. Then let's begin, shall we? We have quite a story to tell. Daniel isn't coming. Christine's voice echoed through her phone's speaker as Jolie's laptop recorded everything. Something about being with Reagan. Should we proceed anyway? Tabitha's uncertainty was clear even through the speakerphone. Absolutely. He'll come around once he sees what he's missing. I checked my watch. 11:15. Daniel sat beside me, his jaw clenched as we listened to his mother plot. They've been trying for 5 years, Christine continued. Once he realizes you can give him what she can't. Enough, Daniel snapped, though they couldn't hear him. His hands were shaking as he held the fertility report. Solomon's doorbell rang, right on schedule. "That'll be Maria," Solomon said, standing. "Maria?" Daniel's head snapped up. "My ex-girlfriend Maria?" "Who your mother drove away 15 years ago," I explained. Solomon thought we should hear her story too. Maria looked exactly like her social media photos, successful, confident, and very pregnant with her 4th child. Her eyes widened when she saw Daniel. "I didn't believe Solomon when he called," she said, sitting down, "but after what he told me about Christine's latest scheme—" "Tell him," Solomon encouraged. "Tell him what really happened senior year of college." Maria took a deep breath. "Your mother told me you were getting back together with your high school girlfriend. Said you were just too nice to tell me yourself." "What?" Daniel's face went pale. "But I never—" "Meanwhile," Maria continued, "she told Daniel I was accepting a job across the country," Solomon added. "Said Maria was too ambitious for family life." "Classic Christine," Jolie muttered, still monitoring her laptop. "Guys, Tabitha just posted a photo from Christine's house. Caption says, 'Ready to meet my future family.'" Daniel's phone buzzed again. Christine. "Darling, please come home. Tabitha is such a lovely girl, and she understands our family values." "Family values?" Daniel repeated bitterly. "Like lying, manipulation?" Dr. Matthews cleared her throat. "There's something else you should know. The treatment plan Tabitha was suggesting for you both. It's nearly identical to the fraudulent protocol she used in Boston. Unnecessary procedures," I added. "Expensive ones. All while knowing the real diagnosis." Daniel stood abruptly, pacing Solomon's living room. "I need to confront her." "Wait," I said, pulling out my phone. "Look at this first." I showed him Christine's social media post from that morning. "Today, we welcome a new chapter in our family's story. Some doors must close for better ones to open." "She's already telling people, isn't she?" Daniel's voice was quiet. "That's why all these family friends are suddenly showing up at her house." Jolie nodded, turning her laptop to show the growing number of check-ins at Christine's address. "She's gathered quite the audience." "Perfect," I said, standing. "That's exactly what we need." "What do you mean?" Daniel asked. "Your mother wants an audience for her grand revelation." I gathered the documents into my bag. "Let's give her one, but we'll be the ones doing the revealing." "Reagan," Daniel started. "She needs to face what she's done," Maria interjected. "Not just to you and Reagan, but to everyone she's manipulated over the years." "I agree," Solomon said. "Sometimes public consequences are the only way to break patterns of behavior." Daniel looked at each of us, then at his phone as another message from Christine came through. "Son, please, this is about our family's future." "You're right," he said finally. "She needs to face this, all of it." "Then let's go," I said, checking the time. "They should be just sitting down to brunch." As we gathered our things, Jolie's laptop pinged with another update. "Oh, this is rich," she said. "Tabitha just posted, 'Some people are meant to be mothers. Others should accept their limitations.'" Daniel's face hardened. "Let's go." We filed out to our cars, a strange procession. Me, Daniel, Maria, Dr. Matthews, Solomon, and Jolie with her laptop full of evidence. As we drove toward Christine's house, my phone lit up one last time. "Christine, whatever you're planning, remember, I always win." I showed it to Daniel, who was driving. "Not this time, Mom," he muttered. "Not this time." As we pulled up to Christine's perfectly manicured house, we could see the gathering through the large bay windows. Christine at the head of the table, Tabitha at her right hand, surrounded by family friends and relatives. "Ready?" I asked Daniel. He took my hand, squeezing it firmly. "Ready." As we walked toward the front door, I thought about Solomon's words about karma and reflections. Christine wanted a public spectacle about family. She was about to get one, just not the one she planned. The sound of clinking glasses and polite laughter stopped abruptly when we walked into Christine's dining room. 20 faces turned to stare at our unlikely group. "Daniel," Christine stood, her perfect hostess smile faltering. "And Reagan, I thought you weren't—" Her voice died as she noticed the others. "Maria?" Solomon, what is the meaning of this? Please, continue your brunch, I said, my voice steady. We wouldn't want to interrupt your special announcement. Tabitha shifted uncomfortably in her seat beside Christine. Her Instagram-perfect smile looked considerably less confident in person. Daniel, Christine tried again. Whatever Reagan has told you. Actually, Mom, Daniel cut in, why don't you tell everyone why we're really here today? About your plans for my future? Christine's eyes darted around the room. I simply wanted to introduce Tabitha to the family. She's a wonderful fertility specialist who lost her medical license in Boston for fraud, Dr. Matthews interrupted, stepping forward. And who, thanks to your financial backing, opened a new practice here with the intention of implementing the same fraudulent treatments. Gasps rippled through the room. Tabitha's face went white. That's absurd, Christine sputtered. I would never… Really? I pulled out the property documents. These lease agreements say otherwise. Shall I pass them around? An elderly aunt reached for the papers. Let me see those. This is ridiculous, Christine snapped. Daniel needs someone who can give him a family. Reagan has failed. I'm infertile, Mom. Daniel's voice cut through the room like a knife. Me, not Reagan. You've had access to my medical records for months. You knew. The silence was deafening. Christine's perfect mask cracked. I only wanted to control everything, Maria stepped forward. Just like you did 15 years ago when you lied to both Daniel and me to break us up. More murmurs from the gathered family. Christine's cousin stood up. Is that true, Christine? Like what you did with Thomas's wife? And Sarah's husband, another relative added. Enough. Christine slammed her hand on the table. Everything I've done has been for this family's best interests. No, Solomon said quietly. Everything you've done has been for control. And look what it's cost you. Jolie turned her laptop around, displaying the social media trail of Christine's manipulation. Years of subtle digs, orchestrated meetings, carefully crafted lies. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Daniel asked, his voice breaking. That I wouldn't eventually learn what you've been doing to Reagan? To our marriage? I was protecting you, Christine insisted. Reagan can't give you children. But Tabitha could. I stepped forward. With her history of medical fraud? Or was that the point? To have a daughter-in-law who would be completely under your control, dependent on your silence about her past? Tabitha stood abruptly. I should go. Sit down, Christine hissed. This isn't over, I finished for her. You're right, because now everyone knows about the lies, the manipulation, the fraud. How many families have you torn apart, Christine? How many lives have you tried to control? The room erupted in overlapping voices as relatives began sharing their own stories of Christine's interference. Years of hidden resentment bubbled to the surface. I did it all for love, Christine said, but her voice was small now. For family. No, Mom, Daniel said softly. You did it for yourself, and it ends today. He turned to the gathered family members. I'm sorry for what she's done to all of you, but today, we're taking our lives back. Christine sank into her chair, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Tabitha had already slipped out during the chaos. Daniel, please, Christine whispered. You're my only son. And I'll always be your son, he replied, but not your puppet. Not anymore. He took my hand. Reagan is my wife, my family, and if we never have children, that's something we'll face together, without your interference. The room had gone quiet again, but this time it was different. The silence felt like healing, like truth finally breaking through years of carefully maintained lies. We're leaving now, Daniel announced. Anyone who wants to know the full truth, Solomon has copies of everything. As we turned to go, I heard Christine call out one last time. Reagan, wait! I paused at the doorway, looking back at the woman who had tried so hard to destroy me. She seemed smaller somehow, older, stripped of her power. You'll never win, she said, but it sounded more like a question than a statement. I smiled, thinking of Solomon's words about karma and reflections. I already have Christine. The truth won. And that's all that matters. We walked out into the sunlight, leaving Christine alone with the consequences of her actions, surrounded by the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies. The autumn breeze rustled through Solomon's garden as I helped him arrange chairs for his weekly neighborhood tea gathering. These had become a regular thing since the confrontation at Christine's house, a gentle rebellion against her exclusive brunches. Look who finally decided to join us, Solomon nodded toward the garden gate. Christine stood there looking smaller in her casual clothes, holding a simple homemade cake instead of her usual elaborate pastries. I brought dessert, she said quietly, if that's all right. Solomon smiled. There's always room for one more. I watched as she placed her cake on the table, her hands trembling slightly. This was the first time I'd seen her since that day, though Daniel had been meeting with her for weekly counseling sessions. Reagan, she acknowledged me, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. I wasn't sure you'd be here. I help Solomon set up every week, I replied. You'd know that if you'd accepted his previous invitations. She nodded, running her hand along one of the mismatched vintage teacups. These are beautiful, not perfect, but beautiful in their own way. That's the point, Solomon said, setting down the last chair. Perfect is overrated. The garden gradually filled with an eclectic mix of neighbours, including Maria, who now lived a few streets over. She'd moved back after her husband got a position at the local hospital. Christine, Maria said, surprisingly warm. I saved you a seat. I watched them talk quietly, years of hurt slowly giving way to cautious healing. Daniel arrived last, straight from work, his face lighting up when he saw his mother there. Mom, you came. I'm trying, she said simply. As Solomon served tea in his wonderfully mismatched cups, I noticed how different this felt from Christine's carefully orchestrated gatherings. Children played on the lawn, cups occasionally spilled, and nobody seemed to care about social status or family connections. I've been thinking, Christine said suddenly, loud enough for nearby conversations to pause. About what you said that day, Reagan, about winning. I set down my teacup. And you were right. But not in the way I thought. She looked around the garden. This is winning. This messy, imperfect happiness. Mom, Daniel started, but she held up her hand. Let me finish. I spent so many years trying to control everything, to make everything perfect. I missed out on real relationships, real love. She turned to me. I missed out on having a real daughter-in-law. Christine, no, please, I need to say this. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry for everything. The manipulation, the lies, the hurt I caused. I can't take it back, but I can try to do better. Solomon refilled her teacup. Trying is all any of us can do. Actually, Daniel said, squeezing my hand, we have something to share. All eyes turned to us. We've been approved for adoption, I said. A baby girl. Her birth mother chose us last week. Christine's teacup clattered against its saucer. You're going to be parents? If you'd like, I said carefully, you could be a grandmother, a real one. No manipulation, no control, just love. Tears welled in her eyes. I'd like that. Very much. But, Daniel added firmly, things have to be different. I know, Christine whispered. I know. Maria raised her teacup. To new beginnings, real ones this time. As everyone toasted, I felt Daniel's arm around my waist, solid and secure. Across the garden, Jolie was showing Solomon how to use social media on his phone, probably to share photos of his tea gatherings. Christine was quietly asking Maria about her children, genuine interest replacing her usual competitive edge. You know, Solomon said, joining us with a fresh pot of tea. Sometimes the best families are the ones we build ourselves, flaws and all. Speaking of building, Christine said hesitantly, I've been thinking of turning my house into a community centre for families dealing with infertility, adoption, all the things I used to judge. Maybe help other mothers learn from my mistakes. That's Actually, a wonderful idea, I said, surprised. Would you help? She asked. Both of you? I don't trust myself to do it alone. Daniel and I exchanged looks. We'll think about it, he said. As the afternoon light softened, I watched Christine join a group of children admiring Solomon's koi pond, her perfect posture relaxing as she knelt down to their level. She looked different somehow. Lighter, more real. Ready to go home? Daniel asked softly. I looked around the garden one last time, at Solomon's mismatched teacups, at Christine's imperfect but heartfelt cake, at this wonderfully messy gathering of healing hearts. Actually, I said, I think we are home. Because sometimes winning isn't about defeating your enemies. Sometimes it's about helping them find their way back to humanity, back to love. And sometimes the most perfect endings are the ones that remain beautifully, wonderfully imperfect.
The call came on a Tuesday, right as I was finishing another failed attempt at a self-portrait. My hands were covered in charcoal, and dark smudges decorated my workspace like accusations of mediocrity. Brian's voice echoed in my head. Why do you even bother, Layla? You'll never be good enough. I'm Layla, and for 30 years, I've lived in the shadow of my perfect older brother. The phone kept ringing, and I almost let it go to voicemail. Another habit born from years of expecting disappointment. But something made me answer. Ms. Wheeler, this is James Morton from Morton & Associates law firm. I'm calling regarding your Uncle Robert's estate. My Uncle Robert? I hadn't seen him in years, though he'd always been the only one who believed in my art. The last time we spoke, he'd bought one of my paintings for what I later learned was 10 times its asking price. I'm afraid I don't understand, I said, wiping charcoal on my jeans. Uncle Robert passed away 3 months ago. Yes, and after extensive review, his will has finally cleared probate. Ms. Wheeler, you've been named the sole heir to Armstrong Arts International. The charcoal pencil slipped from my fingers. That's impossible. Uncle Robert owned one of the largest art dealership networks in the country. Indeed, the company currently manages 16 galleries across 3 continents, with numerous subsidiary businesses. Would you be available to meet tomorrow morning to discuss the details? I sat down hard in my paint-splattered chair. Yes, I suppose I would. The next morning, I walked into Morton & Associates wearing the only business suit I owned, a black ensemble I'd bought for Uncle Robert's funeral. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where I met James Morton and another man who introduced himself as Emerson Armstrong, the company's chief advisor. Your uncle spoke often about you, Emerson said, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. He believed in your vision for art as something that should be accessible to everyone, not just the elite. James cleared his throat and began laying out documents. There are several matters we need to discuss, but first... A knock interrupted him. His secretary entered with a stack of folders, and as she set them down, a familiar name caught my eye on one of the papers. Wait, I said, reaching for the document. Is that Brian Wheeler? Emerson and James exchanged glances. Yes, Emerson confirmed. Your brother has been employed at one of our subsidiary companies for the past 18 months. My stomach churned. Brian, who'd spent years mocking my artistic aspirations, worked for an art company? The same company I now owned? Does he know about this? About the inheritance? Not yet, James replied. The reading of the will was private, as per your uncle's instructions. I thought about Sunday dinner just 2 days ago, where Brian had dominated the conversation with stories about his corporate successes. When are you going to grow up and get a real job, Layla? He'd asked, smirking over his wineglass. You can't play with crayons forever. Ms. Wheeler? Emerson's voice pulled me back. There's something else you should know. We've noticed some concerning patterns in the financial reports from your brother's division. My throat tightened. What kind of patterns? Irregularities, he said carefully. Nothing concrete yet, but... Show me everything, I interrupted, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. For the next 2 hours, they walked me through the basics of the company structure, my new responsibilities, and the preliminary findings regarding the financial discrepancies. By the time I left the office, my head was spinning with information, but one thought remained crystal clear. Brian had no idea his little sister now held his career in her hands. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Zara. Drinks, you sound weird. I met her at our usual spot, a quiet bar with abstract art on the walls. After I told her everything, she leaned back with a low whistle. Holy shit, Lay. What are you gonna do? I traced the condensation on my glass, thinking about years of snide comments and undermining remarks. About being the family disappointment. About Brian's smug face every time he achieved something I couldn't. I don't know yet, I admitted, but for the first time in my life, I have real power. And I took a deep breath. I think it's time to use it. Zara reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But Lay, don't let him make you small anymore. My phone buzzed again, a message from Emerson with a preliminary audit report attached. The first line made my blood run cold. Unauthorized transfers totaling $2.1 million. I looked up at Zara, my heart pounding. I think my brother's been stealing from the company. My company. The weight of those words settled over me like a heavy cloak. For years, I'd tried to earn my family's approval through my art. Now, with a twist of fate I never saw coming, I had the power to expose the golden child for what he really was. The question was, did I have the courage to use it? The Armstrong Arts International headquarters felt like entering another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic city views, and original artwork adorned every wall. My footsteps echoed across marble floors as I followed Emerson to his office. Coffee? He offered, gesturing to a sleek machine. Please, I haven't slept much since yesterday. He handed me a steaming cup and pulled up financial records on his dual monitors. These are the transactions we flagged. Notice anything unusual? I leaned forward, scanning the numbers. Despite my limited business experience, even I could spot the pattern. Regular transfers always just under the reporting threshold, flowing through a maze of subsidiary accounts. Who authorized these? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Your brother has signing authority up to $250,000. Each individual transfer stays under that limit, but collectively... Emerson's voice trailed off. My phone buzzed, a text from Brian. Heard you were at AAI? What's little sis doing in the big leagues? I ignored it, focusing on the screen. Show me everything from the past year. Hours passed as Emerson and his team walked me through the company's structure. By lunch, my head throbbed with information overload. But one thing was clear. Brian had been systematically siphoning money through a complex web of transactions. A knock at the door interrupted our discussion. Ms. Wheeler? A young woman entered, carrying a tablet. I'm Zara Steele, your new assistant. Mr. Armstrong hired me this morning. I smiled, recognizing my best friend in her professional disguise. We'd discussed this plan last night, having someone I could trust on the inside. Perfect timing, Emerson said. We were just about to visit the subsidiary office where Brian works. My stomach clenched. Today? No time like the present. Don't worry, it's just a routine new owner tour. Brian won't suspect anything. The drive to the subsidiary office gave me time to compose myself. Zara squeezed my hand reassuringly as we pulled into the parking lot. Remember, she whispered, you're the boss now. The office lobby buzzed with activity. Employees straightened their postures as we walked past, word of the new owner's visit spreading like wildfire. Then I heard his voice. Well, if it isn't my baby sister. Brian strode toward us, all confidence and expensive suit. He hugged me too tight, his cologne overwhelming. What brings you to our humble workplace? Just touring my new company, I said, watching his face carefully. He laughed, but something flickered in his eyes. Your company? That's cute. Ms. Wheeler is indeed the new owner of Armstrong Arts International, Emerson stated firmly, including all subsidiaries. Brian's smile froze. Is that so? Uncle Robert always did have an interesting sense of humor. We'd love a tour of the financial department, I said, matching his fake smile, since you're so familiar with the operations here. His laugh turned sharp. Sorry, sis, but I have meetings all afternoon. Perhaps another time? Cancel them, I said quietly. This takes priority. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken tensions. Finally, Brian's facade cracked slightly. Of course. Right this way. As we followed him through the office, I noticed how he skipped certain areas, steering us away from specific departments. Zara took careful notes on her tablet, while Emerson asked pointed questions about financial protocols. And these international wire transfers, Emerson pressed, they all go through proper channels? Absolutely, Brian replied smoothly. Everything by the book. My phone vibrated. A message from Zara. Security just caught someone shredding documents in the accounting department. Brian, I interrupted his rehearsed speech about compliance procedures. Why don't we check out the accounting department next? He stepped in front of me. It's rather boring, really. Nothing you'd understand. Try me. Listen, Layla. He lowered his voice, gripping my arm. You might own this company on paper, but you don't know the first thing about running it. Why don't you stick to your little paintings and let the professionals handle business? I pulled my arm free. Remove your hand, or I'll have security do it for you. The mask slipped completely then, revealing the contempt I'd always known was there. You're making a mistake, he hissed. No, Brian. I think I'm finally fixing one. I turned to Emerson. Please have it freeze all accounts Mr. Wheeler has access to, effective immediately, and send a team to secure the accounting department. Brian's face went pale. You can't do that. Actually, I smiled, I can, and I just did. As security arrived to escort us to accounting, I caught a glimpse of Brian pulling out his phone, fingers flying over the keys. Whatever evidence he was trying to destroy, whatever accomplices he was trying to warn, it was too late. The house of cards was about to come down, and my perfect brother had no idea I held the winning hand. Zara's tablet pinged with an alert. She showed me the screen. Multiple attempts to access offshore accounts, all within the last 5 minutes. Game on, big brother. The cafe where I'd arranged to meet Alexis was quiet for a Saturday morning. I spotted her immediately. Brian's wife still had that perfect posture, designer handbag placed just so on the table. We hadn't really talked since she married my brother 5 years ago. Layla. She stood to hug me, her smile genuine but strained. It's been too long. Thanks for meeting me. I sat down, noting the dark circles under her makeup. How are you holding up? Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. You mean since you froze all of Brian's work accounts? He's been difficult. I can imagine. I paused as the waiter brought my cappuccino. Remember when we were roommates in college? You used to tell me everything. That was before I married your brother. Alexis looked down. Things change. Do they have to? She met my eyes then, and I saw a flicker of the old Alexis, the one who'd stay up late with me, sharing secrets and dreams. Brian's been acting strange lately. Secretive. He's been making a lot of late-night phone calls in his office. When did it start? About a year ago. He started coming home later, more stressed. Sometimes he'd wake up in the middle of the night to check his laptop. She hesitated. Last month, I found him shredding documents at 3 a.m. My heart raced. Did you see what they were? No, but... Alexis reached into her bag, hands shaking slightly. I took pictures of some papers he left in his home office. I shouldn't have, but something felt wrong. She slid her phone across the table. The photos showed spreadsheets, account numbers, and what looked like offshore banking details. Why are you showing me this? I asked quietly. Tears welled in her eyes. Because the Alexis who was your best friend would have done it years ago. Because I've spent 5 years watching Brian tear you down while building himself up on lies. She took a shuddering breath. And because last week, I found divorce papers in his desk, already signed, dated 3 months ago. My hand found hers across the table. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I think I've known for a while that something wasn't right. But Layla, she squeezed my hand. Whatever you find, whatever you do, be careful. Brian's not just angry, he's scared. And he's been making calls to some people I don't trust. The cafe door chimed, and we both jumped as Zara walked in, right on schedule. Alexis, what a surprise. Zara's performance was perfect as she pulled up a chair. I didn't know you two were meeting today. Just catching up, I said, watching Alexis carefully. Zara's been helping me adjust to running Uncle Robert's company. Alexis's eyes widened slightly at the casual mention of my new role. It must be overwhelming. It would be, except for some excellent advisors. I nodded to Zara, who pulled out her tablet. Speaking of which, Zara said, we found something interesting in the international accounts. Transfers to a company called Artemis Holdings? Ring any bells? Alexis went pale. That's the company Brian told me to register last year, in my maiden name. Zara and I exchanged looks. Did he tell you why? He said it was for tax purposes, that lots of executives do it. She pressed her hands to her face. Oh God, what did I help him do? Nothing yet, Zara assured her. The company exists, but it's clean, no transactions. He wanted me to sign some transfer papers next week, Alexis whispered. Said it was urgent. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Where's my wife? She's not answering her phone. He's checking up on you, I said, showing her the message. Alexis straightened her shoulders, something hardening in her expression. Let me help. Whatever you need to know, whatever evidence you're looking for, I want to help find it. It could get ugly, I warned. Brian won't forgive either of us. There's nothing left to forgive. She pulled out a USB drive. Here's everything I could copy from his home computer. Financial records, emails, contact lists. She slid it across the table. Just promise me one thing. Name it. When you take him down, because we both know that's where this is heading, make it clean. Make it permanent. No second chances. My phone buzzed again. Found you. Nice catch-up session. We all turned to the cafe window. Brian stood outside, his face dark with rage as he watched us through the glass. Alexis flinched but didn't look away. Go out the back, I told her, standing up. Zara will take you somewhere safe. What about you? I grabbed my bag, making sure the USB drive was secure. I'm going to have a chat with my brother. It's time he learned that his little sister isn't so little anymore. As Zara hustled Alexis toward the back exit, I walked to the front door, my heart pounding but my steps steady. The game had changed now. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about every person Brian had ever used and discarded. Time to show him what real power looks like. Brian grabbed my arm the moment I stepped outside the cafe. What the hell do you think you're doing? I yanked free, keeping my voice steady. Having coffee with an old friend. Problem? Don't play dumb, Layla. I saw you with my wife. His face was flushed with anger. What lies have you been telling her? Interesting choice of words, considering the divorce papers you've been hiding. That caught him off guard. His eyes narrowed. Been snooping through my personal life now? Guess Uncle Robert's money bought you some courage. No, Brian, you did that all by yourself. I started walking toward my car. Years of belittling me, making me feel worthless. You taught me exactly what kind of person you really are. He followed, his expensive shoes clicking on the pavement. Oh, please. You're still the same pathetic little girl who can't handle real responsibility. You think you can run a multinational company? You can barely run your own life. I spun to face him. Is that why you've been embezzling millions? Because you're so much more responsible? Prove it. His smile was cold. You've got nothing. I pulled out my phone, showing him a screenshot Zara had sent earlier. Wire transfer to Artemis Holdings, authorized by you, scheduled for next week. Ring any bells? The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? I own the company, remember? Every transaction, every account, every dirty little secret, it all belongs to me now. I stepped closer. Did you really think you could hide it forever? You have no idea what you're dealing with, he snarled. I've spent years building connections you couldn't imagine. One phone call, and your precious inheritance disappears. Try it. I held up the USB drive. While you're at it, explain these records to the FBI. I'm sure they'd love to hear about your offshore accounts. His hand shot out, grabbing for the drive, but I was ready. I stepped back, watching his desperation grow. What do you want? He demanded. Money? Is that it? Name your price? I laughed, the sound bitter even to my own ears. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money, it's about justice. Justice? He spat the word. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of my success, my marriage, everything I've achieved. Achieved? My voice rose. You mean stolen. From the company, from Alexis, from everyone who trusted you. Alexis? He laughed harshly. My wife knows her place. She won't say a word against me. Ex-wife, I corrected, and she already has. The mask slipped completely then. Brian's face contorted with rage as he lunged forward, but a hand caught his shoulder. Is there a problem here? Camden, my artist friend who owned the cafe, stood behind Brian. His tall frame towered over my brother. Brian shrugged off Camden's hand, straightening his jacket. Family discussion, private. Doesn't look private from where I'm standing, Camden said calmly, and my security cameras caught everything. I saw the calculation in Brian's eyes as he looked between us. This isn't over, little sister. You want to play hardball? Let's play. But remember, you started this war. No, Brian. You started it years ago. I'm just finally fighting back. He turned to leave but paused. Tell Alexis she has 24 hours to come home, or she'll regret it. Threaten her again, I said quietly. And those financial records won't be the only things the FBI receives. He stormed off, nearly knocking over a parking meter in his rage. Camden touched my arm gently. You okay? I realized I was shaking. No, but I will be. My phone buzzed with a text from Zara. Alexis is safe. Got everything on video. You should see this footage. Another message followed immediately. Emerson says Brian just tried to access the main servers. IT blocked him, but he's getting desperate. Thanks for the backup, I told Camden, showing him the messages. Think your security footage might help our case? He grinned. Already sent it to Zara. Your brother really showed his true colors today. I looked in the direction Brian had gone, thinking about the years of manipulation and abuse, about Alexis, hiding her pain behind perfect smiles, about every person he'd stepped on to climb his way up. Camden, I said, I need a favor. Can you get me in touch with that investigative reporter friend of yours? He raised an eyebrow. The one who specializes in corporate fraud? Sure, but are you ready for that kind of publicity? I thought about Brian's threats, his smug certainty that he could still control the situation. Yes, it's time everyone saw who my brother really is. My phone buzzed again. Emerson this time. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow. Brian's trying to rally support against you. I smiled grimly. Tell Emerson I'll be there, with evidence. The war was on, and this time I wasn't backing down. The boardroom hummed with tension as I spread the documents across the polished table. Emerson stood at my side, pointing out key figures to the assembled board members. Brian's empty chair glared at me from the opposite end. As you can see, Emerson explained, the pattern of fraudulent transactions extends back 18 months. A board member adjusted his glasses. And you're certain these originated from Mr. Wheeler's department? More than certain. I nodded to Zara, who distributed additional folders. Page 3 shows his electronic signatures on every major transfer. The boardroom door burst open. Brian strode in, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. Sorry I'm late, he announced, not sounding sorry at all. I had to collect my legal representation. This is a closed board meeting, Emerson stated firmly. A meeting about me, without me? Brian's laugh was sharp. My lawyers advised against that. Your lawyers, I said, standing up, might want to see this first. I gestured to the screens behind me as Zara started the presentation. Security footage from multiple angles showed Brian's confrontation outside the cafe, his threats clearly audible. One of his lawyers winced. Illegal surveillance, Brian snapped. Inadmissible. Public space, Zara corrected. Perfectly legal. The boardroom door opened again. Alexis walked in, her head high, followed by 2 people I recognized from the FBI's white-collar crime division. Brian's face went chalk white. What is this? Special Agents Marcus and Rivera. One of them announced, showing his badge. We'd like to ask you some questions about Artemis Holdings. I invoke my right to counsel, Brian said quickly. Interesting response, I noted. Nobody accused you of anything yet. The board members shifted uncomfortably as the agents approached Brian. His lawyers huddled together, whispered frantically. Before this goes any further, I said, I have a proposition. Brian's eyes darted between me and the FBI agents. I'm listening. Resignation, immediate, full confession, voluntary repayment of all stolen funds. I met his gaze steadily. In exchange, the company doesn't press charges. The FBI might still have questions, Agent Marcus interjected. They might, I agreed, but corporate cooperation usually helps in these situations, doesn't it? Brian's lawyer nodded slightly to him. And if I refuse? Brian challenged. Alexis stepped forward, placing a stack of papers on the table. Then I submit these to the FBI, every transaction, every hidden account, every conversation where you detailed your plans. Her voice trembled but held firm. Including the ones where you discussed having me take the fall if you were caught. The second lawyer immediately stood up. If you'll excuse us, we need to consult with our client. You have 5 minutes, I said. They hurried Brian into a corner. I could see him gesturing angrily, his face getting redder by the second. Finally, his shoulders slumped. Fine, he spat, returning to the table. You win. I'll sign whatever you want. Emerson slid the resignation papers across the table. Already prepared. As Brian signed, his hand shaking with rage, I felt no triumph, only a deep sadness for what could have been. The confession next, Agent Rivera said, producing another document. Brian's pen hesitated. Layla, we're family. Family. I laughed softly. Was it family when you told our parents I was worthless? When you sabotaged my first gallery showing? When you planned to frame your own wife for your crimes? I built this company. No, Alexis cut in. You stole from it. There's a difference. The next hour passed in a blur of signatures and statements. When it was done, the FBI agents escorted Brian out, his lawyers trailing behind like lost puppies. The board needs to discuss next steps, Emerson announced, gathering the documents. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. In the hallway, Alexis caught my arm. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Where will you go now? She smiled, looking lighter than I'd seen her in years. Paris, maybe. Start over. Paint again. You used to love painting. I stopped because Brian said it was childish. She hugged me tightly. Don't let anyone dim your light again, Layla. You're stronger than I ever was. After she left, Zara appeared with coffee and a concerned look. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed. A message from our mother. What have you done to your brother? I showed it to Zara, who rolled her eyes. Want me to handle it? No. I straightened my shoulders. It's time I handled my family myself. Ms. Wheeler, Emerson called from the boardroom. They're ready for you. I took a deep breath, thinking of Uncle Robert. He'd seen something in me that even I hadn't recognized. Strength, determination, integrity. Coming, I called back. It was time to build something new from the ashes of my brother's destruction. Something honest, something real. Time to prove that the little sister with the paint-stained hands could do more than just survive. She could lead. My parents' house looked exactly the same. Pristine lawn, perfect flowers, Brian's old sports trophies still proudly displayed in the front window. I'd been avoiding this confrontation for a week, but after 30 missed calls and countless accusatory texts, I couldn't put it off any longer. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Finally decided to show your face? Hello to you too, Mom. The living room was a shrine to Brian's achievements. Photos, awards, newspaper clippings. My own art degree diploma was nowhere in sight. Dad sat in his usual armchair, looking older than I remembered. Explain yourself, young lady. Explain what? I settled onto the couch. How your perfect son embezzled millions? How he planned to frame his wife? Or how he threatened me in broad daylight? Lies. Mom's voice shook. Your brother would never... I have proof. I pulled out my tablet, playing the security footage. Everything's documented. The FBI has it all. They watched in silence as Brian's threats echoed through the speakers. Mom's hand flew to her mouth when he lunged at me. He was under stress, Dad argued weakly. You provoked him. By existing? Yeah, that's always been enough to provoke Brian, hasn't it? You're just jealous, Mom snapped. You've always been jealous of his success. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Success? Let me show you his kind of success. I pulled up the financial records, the offshore accounts, the documented threats against Alexis. With each new piece of evidence, their faces grew paler. He's your brother, Mom whispered. How could you do this to him? How could you do this to me? I stood up, hands shaking. For 30 years, I've watched you worship him while he tore me down. Every achievement ignored, every dream mocked. Did you know he sabotaged my first gallery showing? Paid critics to trash my work? Dad shifted uncomfortably. That's not true. Here's the proof. I showed them the emails we'd found. He couldn't stand the idea that I might succeed on my own merit. But he had such potential, Mom protested. And I didn't? Look at me, Mom. Really look. I'm running a multinational company. My art is in galleries across 3 continents. I did that despite you both, despite Brian, despite everyone who said I couldn't. The doorbell rang. Mom started to rise, but I waved her down. That'll be Alexis. Alexis? Dad frowned. Why would she? Because she's filing for divorce, and she wanted you to hear her side before Brian spins his lies. Alexis entered, looking elegant and composed. The contrast between her confidence now and her former nervous demeanor was striking. "Hello," she said quietly. "I thought you should know the truth." For the next hour, Alexis detailed years of manipulation, emotional abuse, and financial schemes. She showed them the divorce papers Brian had hidden, the threatening texts he'd sent after I confronted him. "He was going to blame me," she finished. "Set me up to take the fall for everything. Your perfect son was willing to send his wife to prison to save himself." Mom was crying silently. Dad stared at his hands. "The FBI is still investigating," I added. "They'll probably want to talk to you both. I wanted you to be prepared." "What do we do?" Mom asked, her voice small. "Stop enabling him. Stop making excuses. For once in your lives, see him for what he really is." My phone buzzed. Emerson. "Brian's trying to access company accounts through a back door. IT caught it. Want us to alert the FBI?" "Yes," I texted back. Then to my parents, "He's still at it. Even now he's trying to steal more." Dad finally looked up. "I don't understand. We gave him everything." "That's the problem," Alexis said gently. "You gave him everything, including permission to destroy anyone who got in his way." "Including his own sister," I added. "His own wife." Mom reached for a photo of Brian, him in his college graduation gown, beaming at the camera. Where did we go wrong? By believing he could do no wrong. I stood up. "I have to go. The company needs me. But think about something. All those years you spent promoting Brian's potential, I was actually living up to mine." Alexis followed me out. In the driveway, she squeezed my hand. "That was brave." "Was it? I feel sick." "They needed to hear it, all of it." She smiled sadly. "My flight to Paris leaves tomorrow. New life, new start. Send me your art when you start painting again, only if you promise to display it in one of your galleries." My phone buzzed again. Zara this time. "FBI wants to meet. Brian's getting desperate." I hugged Alexis goodbye, watching as she drove away. Through the living room window, I could see my parents holding each other, surrounded by the wreckage of their illusions. Sometimes justice feels like breaking things. Sometimes it feels like finally being able to breathe. I got in my car, ready to face whatever desperate move Brian had planned next. The truth was out now. No more shadows, no more pretending. Time to finish what I started. The emergency board meeting was already in chaos when I arrived. Brian had somehow gotten in before me, and he was standing at the head of the table, wild-eyed and disheveled. "There she is," he shouted, "the artist who thinks she can run a business." Security moved to remove him, but I held up my hand. "Let him speak. I want everyone to hear this." "Oh, you want to hear me?" Brian's laugh was unhinged. "How about we hear about your complete lack of qualifications? Your failed art shows? The fact that you couldn't even sell a painting without Uncle Robert's pity? Are you done?" I kept my voice steady, setting my briefcase on the table. "Done? I'm just getting started." He pulled out a stack of papers. "I have proof that you're unfit to run this company. Proof that Uncle Robert was mentally incompetent when he changed his will." The board members murmured uncomfortably. Emerson stepped forward. "Mr. Wheeler, I advised your uncle personally. He was of sound mind." "Really?" Brian slapped more documents down. "Then explain these medical records." I opened my briefcase calmly. "You mean the forged medical records you created last night? The ones you paid Dr. Marcus to backdate?" His face went white. "How did you—" "Dr. Marcus called me this morning. He's very cooperative when faced with losing his medical license." I nodded to Zara, who started distributing folders. "He provided quite detailed information about your attempt to falsify Uncle Robert's medical history." One of the board members gasped as she read the contents. "Mr. Wheeler, this is criminal." "It's lies," Brian snarled. "All lies. Just like her paintings, worthless imitations of real art." Speaking of art, I pressed a button on my phone, and the boardroom screens lit up. "Let's talk about the real reason Uncle Robert left me the company." Security footage appeared, showing Brian in one of our storage facilities, replacing original artworks with forgeries. 3 months ago, I explained, Uncle Robert discovered that Brian had been selling authentic pieces and replacing them with high-quality fakes. The profits went straight to his offshore accounts. You can't prove that was me, Brian said quickly. Actually, we can. Agent Marcus entered the room, followed by his FBI team. We found your forgery supplier. He's been very informative. Brian lunged for the door, but security blocked his path. This is a setup. She's framing me. Like you planned to frame Alexis? I asked quietly. The boardroom door opened again. Alexis walked in, carrying a laptop. I think the board should hear this. She played an audio recording. Brian's voice, crystal clear. If anything goes wrong, all evidence points to my wife. She signed everything. She'll take the fall. That's inadmissible, Brian shouted. She recorded me illegally. Wrong again, Agent Marcus said. She was already cooperating with our investigation. The recording was authorized by court order. Brian's lawyers, hovering nervously by the door, began gathering their things. Wait, Brian called to them. You can't leave. I'm paying you to... Your accounts are frozen, I interrupted. All of them, including the hidden ones in the Cayman Islands. He slumped into a chair, the fight draining from him. You've ruined everything. No, Brian, you did that yourself. I turned to the board. Ladies and gentlemen, I move to formally remove Brian Wheeler from any position within this company and its subsidiaries. Seconded, Emerson said firmly. The vote was unanimous. As the FBI led Brian away in handcuffs, he tried one last time. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this. Actually, said a quiet voice from the doorway, we're here to support your sister. Our parents stood there, looking small and tired. Mom's eyes were red from crying, but her spine was straight as she watched her golden child being led away. How could you? Brian called to them. Dad shook his head sadly. We've been asking ourselves the same question for days. How could you, Brian? After Brian was gone, the board quickly approved my restructuring plan. As people filed out, Mom approached my chair. We were wrong, she whispered, about everything, about you. Yes, I said simply. You were. Can you ever forgive us? I looked at her, then at Dad, seeing for the first time how age and regret had marked them. I don't know, but I'm willing to try if you are. Alexis touched my shoulder. My car's waiting. Paris awaits. I hugged her tightly. Send me your first painting. I will. And Layla? She smiled through tears. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. After everyone left, I stood at the boardroom window, watching the city lights come on. Zara appeared with coffee. Quite a day, boss. Quite a month. I took the coffee gratefully. Did we do the right thing? You gave him chances. Multiple chances. He chose this ending. My phone buzzed. A message from Camden. Gallery opening next week. Still want that wall space for your new collection? I smiled, thinking of the paintings I'd been working on in secret. Paintings about power, truth, and redemption. Yes, I texted back. It's time to show the world what I can really do. The gallery hummed with conversation as people moved from piece to piece. My new collection, Shadows and Light, filled the walls, paintings that told the story of power, betrayal, and redemption without a single recognizable face. They're beautiful, Camden said, appearing at my elbow with champagne. Especially that one. He nodded toward the centerpiece, a massive canvas showing broken chains transforming into butterflies, the piece I'd finished the night after Brian's arrest. Ms. Wheeler? A young woman approached, notepad in hand. I'm from Art Forum. Would you comment on the inspiration behind your work? Before I could answer, my parents walked in. Mom wore a simple black dress, no designer labels, no flashy jewelry. Dad looked uncertain in his rented tuxedo. Excuse me, I told the reporter. Family matter. They stood before the centerpiece, studying it intently. Mom's hand trembled as she reached out, almost touching the surface. This is what it felt like, isn't it? She asked softly. All those years under his shadow. Part of it. I sipped my champagne. The butterflies are new. Layla, Zara called from across the room. The buyers from Paris are here. I turned to my parents. Duty calls. Wait, Dad caught my arm gently. We've been going through old boxes. Found something you should have. He pulled out a carefully wrapped package. Inside was a small, childish painting, bright colors and wobbly lines. Your first artwork, Mom explained. The one Brian told us he'd thrown away. He'd hidden it in his old room. I remembered that painting. Age 7, proudly showing it to my family. Brian had called it garbage. "We should have seen it then," Dad said. "How he tried to dim your light. We're so sorry, sweetheart." The Paris buyers approached before I could respond. As I discussed prices and shipping arrangements, I watched my parents move through the gallery, really seeing my work for the first time. "Quite a turnout," Emerson observed, joining me after the buyers left. "The company's art division reports record profits this quarter. Any word from our former executive?" "Brian took a plea deal, 5 to 7 years, full restitution." He paused. "He tried to have his lawyers contact you." "For?" "A documentary crew wants to tell his side of the story. He needs your permission, given the company's involvement." I laughed softly, still trying to control the narrative. What should I tell them? Tell them the truth belongs to everyone now. He doesn't get to own it anymore. My phone buzzed. A message from Alexis with a photo attached. Her first painting in years, bright and bold against her Paris apartment wall. "Speaking of truth," Zara appeared with a tablet. "You should see these reviews coming in." The critics who had once dismissed my work as derivative were now praising its raw emotional honesty and fearless exploration of power dynamics. "Success is the best revenge," Zara grinned. "No," I corrected her. "Truth is." Camden clinked his glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, the artist would like to say a few words." I hadn't planned to speak, but looking around at the gathered faces, friends, family, colleagues who had become allies, I knew what needed to be said. When I was young, someone very important to me said my art was worthless. I believed him for a long time. But art, like truth, has a way of breaking free. I gestured to the paintings. These pieces aren't about revenge or justice. They're about transformation, about breaking chains we didn't know we wore. My parents moved closer, Mom wiping tears. Someone else once told me that power isn't about control. It's about creation, about building something meaningful from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. I raised my glass. To Uncle Robert, who saw strength where others saw weakness, and to everyone who's ever felt shadowed, your light matters. After the speeches and sales, after the critics and collectors left, I found myself alone in the gallery. The centerpiece seemed to glow in the dim light, those broken chains catching the shadows just right. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. "Congratulations. You won. Hope you're happy. B." I didn't respond. Instead, I took a photo of the centerpiece and sent it to Alexis with the caption, "We both broke free." Her reply came instantly. "No more shadows, only light ahead." I touched the small childhood painting my parents had returned, now hanging in a quiet corner. The colors were still bright, the joy still visible in every messy brushstroke. That little girl had been right all along. Art wasn't about perfection or power or praise. It was about truth, about light, about breaking free. And finally, after all these years, I was flying.